Good morning. Welcome to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Thanks so much for live streaming in for our coverage of Karoline Leavitt's White House press briefing coming up at about 1 o'clock. We have a lot to get to, a lot of interviews, a lot of videos, a lot of stories to talk about. This as we monitor the latest with Operation Epic Fury. Plus, where does the Save America Act stand and what's needed in order for it to be signed into law? Let's first start with President Trump's press conference on Air Force One as he returned from Florida to D.C. just yesterday.
Hello, everybody.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
So we've had very good negotiations today with Iran, getting a lot of the things that they should have given us a long time ago. We'll see how it works out, but they're very good. Moving along very nicely. And they've destroyed a lot of additional targets today. The Navy's gone, the Air Force has gone, we know that. We destroyed many targets today. It was a big day. And we are negotiating with them directly and indirectly. We have emissaries, but we also are dealing directly. And as you know, they've agreed to send 8 boats 2 days ago, and then they added another 2, so it was 10 boats. And now today they gave us as a tribute, I don't know, I can't define it exactly, but they gave us, I think out of a sign of respect, 20 boats of oil, big boats of oil, going through the Hormuz Strait. And that's taking place starting tomorrow morning. Over the next couple of days, a lot of boats. And I would only say that we're doing extremely well in that negotiation, but you never know with Iran because we negotiate with them and then we always have to blow them up. Whether it's the B-2 bombers or just terminating, as an example, the Iran nuclear deal done by Barack Hussein Obama, probably the worst deal we've ever done as a country, one of the dumbest deals we've ever done. But I terminated it, unfortunately, otherwise right now they'd have a nuclear weapon. Then we did the attack with the B-2 bombers and we stopped them from having nuclear. And now we had to blow them up again. And we will probably, I think we'll make a deal with them. Sure, whether it's possible, we won't. But we've had regime change, if you look already, because the one regime was decimated, destroyed, they're all dead. The next regime is mostly dead. And the third regime, we're dealing with different people than anybody's dealt with before. It's a whole different group of people. So I would consider that regime change. And frankly, they've been very reasonable. So I think we've had regime change. Can't do much better than that. The regime that was really bad, really evil was the first one. That was done. The second was appointed, and they're gone. They're all dead, other than one who may have a little life in them. And then there really are the third group. And the third group of people that seem to be much more reasonable. It truly is regime change. And regime change is an imperative. I think we have it automatically. I did something today. We just got these in from the architects. A lot of people are talking about how beautiful the ballroom is. For 150 years, they've wanted to build a ballroom at the White House. And other presidents have wanted it. When we have dignitaries coming like President Xi of China or anybody else, we have very small rooms. They're not big enough to handle the kind of capacity that you need. And this is the same height as the White House. It's an incredible fitting. You see what that is, right? Nice. I'll show you. Here's another view. This is coming from right opposite the Treasury building. Beautiful Capitol. Beautiful building. One of the, I think it'll be the finest ballroom of its kind anywhere in the world. A lot of people are giving it really good reviews. Some are giving it reviews without even seeing the building, because this just came out today. These pictures were just made today. We got rid of, quite a while ago, the stairs on the south side, and it's become really beautiful. But it matches and fits the White House. It's also capable of handling the inauguration. We have all bulletproof glass. We have drone-proof roofs, ceilings, everything's drone-proof and bulletproof. And unfortunately, we're living in an age where that's a good thing. And this is the view from the Treasury, opposite the Treasury. Let me see another one of them. Here's a view on the south with the porch, which is a porch, and it's also a fire stair, basically leading down to the grounds. And that porch will be magnificent, looking in between the columns. And they no longer, we took the stairs out that were on the south side and really replaced them with these stairs. So you have an open porch and you have the closed porch under the columns, overlooking the Washington Monument, the Jefferson Memorial, and the Lincoln Memorial / Monument. So that's great. This is a view of the columns as they are going to be made. They're going to be hand carved and they're beautiful. Top of the line, there'll be Corinthian, which is considered the best, most beautiful by far. Okay?
What's your timeline on this?
That's it. Timeline. So we're ahead of schedule and under budget. And all of this money, all of the money paid are paid by myself and donors. It's all donors. There's not one dime of government money going into the ballroom. Now the military is building a big complex under the ballroom, which has come out recently because of a stupid lawsuit that was filed. But the military is building a massive complex under the ballroom, and that's under construction, and we're doing very well. So we're ahead of schedule. It's part of it. And the ballroom essentially becomes a shed for what's being built under the military, including from drones and including from any other thing. The glass on the windows, you see the big windows, the glass is extremely thick. It's high-grade bulletproof glass, so all of the windows are bulletproof. I think the Times wrote to you, some of the windows are fake. We have no fake windows. They said, they talked about a stairway in the south. We don't have a stairway in the south. That was replaced a long time ago. But this is a view of it from the north, and that's, if you see it, it fits in with the White House. It's almost a twin to the White House. It's something we just wanted to pay tribute to the White House. And so that fits in beautifully. Let me just see another one. Here's another one. Excuse me, wait. I thought I'd do this now because it's easier. I'm so busy that I don't have time to do this. But I'm fighting wars and other things. But this is very important because this is going to be with us for a long time, and it's going to be, I think it'll be the greatest ballroom anywhere in the world. It's the highest level. Same height, exact height, if not higher, same height as the White House, exactly the same height. And if you look, you have the White House over here, and you have this, and that's a duplicate of the wall, so it pays total homage to the White House, which is, I think, very important.
Sir,
Mr. President, deal in Iran this upcoming week.
Say it?
Sir, could you foresee a deal in Iran this upcoming week?
I do see a deal in Iran, yeah.
Mr. President,
Could be soon.
are you considering still putting boots on the ground, and would you do that without going to Congress?
I just have lots of alternatives. We have tremendous numbers of ships over there. We don't need them though because of, the power. Look, I would say we're just like we're ahead of schedule on the ballroom. In a much bigger way, we're ahead of schedule with Iran. We're weeks ahead of schedule. If you would have said that in 3 days we were going to knock out 158 ships, their entire Navy, which we did, we knocked out their entire Air Force. We knocked out most of their missiles. That's why you see missile attacks, but they're down to just sputtering. And we have a group, it's really a new regime. It's a group of people that we've never dealt with before, that are acting very reasonable. It is truly regime change.
Is Khamenei's son still alive, sir? Is he a part of these
We think he
conversations?
may be, nobody's heard about him. He may be alive, but he's obviously very seriously in trouble. He's seriously wounded.
You had offered that 15-point plan to Iran. Did they ever come back with a
Yeah, they came back on the 15-point
What did they say?
plan. They gave us most of the points. Why wouldn't they?
And you make it sound like they made some concessions. Can you identify those?
Well, they're agreeing with us on the plan. I mean, we asked for 15 things, and for the most part, we're going to be asking for a couple of other things. And just to prove that they're serious, they gave us all these votes. When I talked about 4 days ago a present, I said they gave me a present, but I didn't think I was at liberty to say what it was. What it was 8 plus 2. It's 10 massive boatloads of oil. And today they gave us another present. They gave us 20 boatloads of oil. That starts being shipped tomorrow. We're having very good meetings, both directly and indirectly, and we're getting a lot of very important points.
Sir, were you caught off guard when the Senate passed the DHS funding bill?
It's a shame. They should really just go to a filibuster. They should terminate the filibuster.
And will you compete?
And they should vote. That's what I think. Look, I think the Senate is playing it too soft. The Republicans are wonderful people, but we're dealing with very sick individuals. The Democrats are sick. There's something wrong. They're like terrorists. And we have to protect our country. We have to protect our border. We have to protect our wall. It was up to them. They'd open up the wall. They'd let millions of people pour into our country again, and we've all been through that. And I don't care if you're liberal or you're conservative. What we have now is we have a beautiful, closed border. We're getting murderers out of our country that Biden let in, the administration, the Democrats. We're getting the drug lords out of our country. We're bringing them back to other countries where they came from all over the world. We have great crime numbers despite the fact that they let in 25 million people. And we're focused on the bad ones. I mean, the ones that came in, we'll work on something, but we have to get the killers out. We have to get the drug dealers out. We have to get the criminally insane. We have people that are criminally insane. They are unbelievably violent people that come out of insane asylums. The Democrats want them protected. I want them out. They have to be out.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to return to the back half of the president's press gaggle that happened within that 24/7 news cycle from Florida to D.C. Of course, the president back in D.C. now. We're going to go to a number of interviews and also tell you about a number of stories that we're tracking here. Let's first go to All Family Pharmacy and take a moment to tell you about one of our trusted sponsors. If you're someone who believes in medical freedom, who supports the MAHA movement, and who's frustrated with that healthcare system that puts insurance companies and government bureaucrats between you and your doctor, All Family Pharmacy is for you. They are an independent American pharmacy, not a chain, and they give you direct access to the medications you need, including ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, and more than 400 generic medications without all of that runaround. So right now, exclusively for RSBN viewers, you can get that 25% off of your order with code RSBN25. And this RSBN25 code, I believe, is only happening to the end of the month. So I guess that's what, tomorrow? So this is how it works. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. So you fill out a medical form, a licensed U.S. physician reviews your request, prescribes if appropriate, and your medication ships directly to your door. And with spring here and allergies, travel, uncertainty in the world, right now is a great time to be prepared. You can order ahead and be ready. All you have to do is visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN and use that RSBN25 code for 25% off. There it is, right there, allfamilypharmacy.com. Let's also go to Birch Gold Group as we think about 2006, $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price, but at today's prices, those 33 ounces would be worth $165,000. So we're seeing that smart Americans are diversifying a portion of their savings into precious metals, and that's why you might want to consider buying gold from our friends at Birch Gold Group, because for thousands of years, as you guys know, gold has been a store of wealth, and today it's a crucial part of any balanced strategy. And even better, Birch Gold can actually help you convert an existing IRA or a 401k into a tax-sheltered retirement account in gold. They have that A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. You get the free info kit. All you have to do is text Trump to 989898. All right, it's 11:46, Monday, March 30th. Hopefully you had a good weekend. I know that I had a great weekend with my family, really looking at the Save America Act as well. You got to get that balance going, right? It's God, family, country. You have to not focus so much in on it, but it's such a tough one because the Save America Act is such a big deal, I think, for our country. So we're going to get into some more of that in just a little bit. But let's go back to President Trump at about 33,000 feet from about 24 hours ago, where he was speaking with the press on the back half of this press gaggle.
You can't have a country if they're here.
Would you sign a DHS deal without ICE funding in it?
ICE is vital to the well-being of our country. ICE, first of all, they're great patriots, but they are physically and mentally very strong people. and they are able to protect us from the animals that have been sent in, allowed to be sent in by the Biden administration, where you have people, jails were prisons from Venezuela, from the Congo, from all over the world, from every continent. They were allowed to come into our country, totally unchecked, totally unvetted. You can't have a soft, weak, sad person deal with these. You need strong people. Now, they love our country. They're very brave. They're very strong, like some of these guys. But you have to have these people removed or you don't have a country. So we had the best crime numbers that we've had, murder numbers, the best in 125 years. Think of it. Since the year 1900, before my father was born by a lot, we have the best crime numbers, and we're going to keep it that way. And that's despite the fact that so many criminals were allowed into our country. So we need ICE, we need Border Patrol. The last thing you people want to see is our country overrun again by criminals, and that's not going to happen. We're not going to let that happen. And by the way, our country doesn't want that.
Mr. President, some Republicans, including Senator Mike Lee, say reconciliation won't work to pass the Save America Act because it's not budget related. What's your response to that?
Well, they say, and they'll have to, the parliamentarians going to have to make a decision on that. But I say, end the filibuster, terminate the filibuster, just vote, and you'll get everything you want. You get all 5 things. We have voter ID, we have proof of citizenship. It's so important. Mail-in ballots have to be stopped, with exceptions for the military, for sick people, people that are sick, people disabled, for people that are traveling. If you're traveling, you can vote. But other than that, mail-in ballots are inherently dishonest. Jimmy Carter, in his Carter Commission, said you can't have mail-in ballots. We're the only country in the world that has mail-in ballots. We're the only country in the world that has, we have a big case coming in the Supreme Court that had to do with the babies of slaves after the Civil War. And instead of that, it's being used as a way for rich countries and thousands of people from China coming in and getting citizenship for people within their family. This is not what they meant when they did that. So that's a big decision coming up. But if you look at it and you look at what we've done here, we have 5 points. We don't want men playing in women's sports. The Democrats do. We don't want transgender mutilization of our children. The Democrats are just fine with it. You could do every child in America, they'd be very happy. We don't want the mutilization of our children. It's transgender, and we're not going to have it. So we want to go into those things. There are 5 points. And with the filibuster termination, you could vote them all in. The Republicans would have the vote.
Mr. President, Leader Thune told me that they do not have the votes to terminate the filibuster.
I know,
How will you get around
that's
that?
part of being a leader. You have to get the votes.
Do you have confidence in Leader Thune?
I like him so much. He's a high quality person. And he told me the same thing. We don't have the votes. Well, he's only a couple of votes short, but that's what being a leader is. You have to get the votes. You have to get the votes. And those people will not be able to withstand the onslaught because Republicans and the country wants it. It's polling at 87% voter ID. Think of it. We're talking about Save America. And it's not Save Act, it's Save America Act. Because it's Saving America. Save Act, nobody knows what it's saving. It's the Save America Act. And you have to have it. You have to have it. The Save America Act, voter ID, all of these things, proof of citizenship. It's an 87% issue with all voters, including Democrats. The only ones that don't want it are Schumer and these corrupt Democrat leaders, because it will not give them the ability to cheat in an election. Look, why wouldn't you want voter ID? There's not a reason in the world you wouldn't want it except to cheat. And if they don't cheat, their policy is so bad they'll never win another election.
Mr. President, on Friday you mentioned that Cuba will be next. What did you mean by that exactly?
And who will be next?
Cuba.
Yeah, Cuba's going to be next. Cuba's going to be...
In what way?
Cuba's a mess. It's a failing country, and they're going to be next. Within a short period of time, it's going to fail. And we will be there to help it out. We'll be there to help our great Cuban Americans out who were thrown out of Cuba. In many cases, their family members were mutilated and killed by Castro. No, Cuba's going to be next, yeah.
Is it just a to allow the Russians to go into Cuba? Are
Are you considering withdrawing Casey Means for Surgeon General and nominating someone else?
Well, we're looking at a lot of different things, and I don't know how she's doing in the nomination process. I'm more focused on Iran, but something like that would be possible.
Mr. President, do you still have confidence?
We certainly have a lot of great candidates for this.
Do you still have confidence in Tulsi Gabbard, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Follow up on.
I mean, she's a little bit different in her thought process than me, but that doesn't make somebody not available to serve.
Is she on the same page
I
as
would
you?
I would say that I'm very strong on the fact that I don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Because if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it immediately. I think she's probably a little bit softer on that issue, but that's okay. Some people are. Most people aren't. Most people are saying thank you very much for doing what you did. They are decimated right now. They're going to give up nuclear weapons. They're going to give us the nuclear dust. They're going to do everything that we want to do. And you know what? They're going to go on and maybe have a great country again. But if they don't do that, they're not going to have a country. They're not even going to have a country. So she's softer on that issue, but I have other people, not too many. That's an issue that we've had great support. You saw the CNN poll where Trump with MAGA, and I think MAGA is most of the Republican Party, is 100% approval. In fact, the young gentleman that does the poll is very good, actually, because he's honest. He said, I've never seen 100% before. I'm 100% in the CNN poll, which just came out. Thank you very much, everybody.
One more thing on Cuba. There's a report that the U.S. is going to let a Russian oil tanker go to Cuba. Is that true?
Well, we have a tanker out there. We don't mind having somebody get a boatload because they have to survive. It
So
wouldn't bother
that
me.
report is true as far as you know?
Well, I would say, I told them, if a country wants to send some oil into Cuba right now, I have no problem with it.
Do you worry that that helps
Whether it's Russia or not, what?
Do you worry that that helps Vladimir Putin, though?
Doesn't help him. He loses one boatload of oil. That's all it is. It's fine.
President.
If he wants to do that, and if other countries want to do it, it doesn't bother me much. It's not going to have an impact. Cuba's finished. They have a bad regime. They have very bad and corrupt leadership. And whether or not they get a boat of oil, it's not going to matter. I'd prefer letting it in, whether it's Russia or anybody else, because the people need heat and cooling and all of the other things that you need. Go ahead.
No, the issue of the Strait of Hormuz and Iran control of it and charging tolls, what do you think about that?
Well, I have to find out if it's true. I mean, they're going to do whatever they have to do. We could close that up in 2 minutes. We could close that up so fast your head would spin.
Do you want to see Gulf countries that are being attacked by Iran to start to fight back?
They are fighting back. Saudi Arabia is fighting back hard. Qatar is fighting back. UAE is fighting back. Kuwait's fighting back. Bahrain is fighting back. They're all fighting back. Actually, they were surprised to be hit. I was very surprised they got hit. And once they got hit, they started fighting very well. We're very strong communications with all of those countries, and they've all been fighting. They're 100% on our side.
How long can you pay TSA workers for? How long can you pay TSA workers for from the One Big Beautiful Bill?
Well, we're going to pay them for as long as we have to, and I will tell you, the ICE workers have been amazing, and that's helping people with their bags. It's very interesting. We put ICE there, and ICE got a very unfair press. They're doing an amazing job getting hardened criminals, murders. 11,888 murders were allowed to come into our country through Biden, and ICE has been amazing. Now, we said, give us a little hand during this period of time, because this is caused by Democrat terrorists. These people are sick. They don't care about our country. They don't care about people. But what it's all about really is they want to have open borders, and they want to have criminals come into our country so they can get more votes, because they're losing votes fast. Look at how I did with the Hispanic population. And now I'm doing even better with the Hispanic population. And that's bad for them. They always had it. Now they don't have it anymore. These are people that want our country to fail, and the voters see that. Thank you very much.
President, have a good
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, so the president speaking with the press just yesterday on the way to D.C., of course, from Florida. We'll be seeing Karoline Leavitt in just a little bit now as we are live here on Right Side Broadcasting Network and covering a lot of the stories, including the Save America Act. We'll dive into what it takes to actually get this thing passed in just a little bit. Before we do, let's go to Rumble Wallet, specifically Rumble Wallet. You may have seen some of those conversations happening online lately where Censorship is back and it's happening everywhere. Platforms controlling narratives, pushing the stuff they want us to see, but we can fight back in that information and financial arena because Rumble is one of the only companies out there that has stood that test of time, deserves our support because on one side, Rumble is challenging big tech censorship, and on the other side, they have introduced something that will give us protection from the big banks shutting us off. So Rumble Wallet, you can control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company, not even Rumble can touch it. It's yours, only yours, and yours to protect your future and family. So you can buy and save digital assets like Bitcoin and Tether Gold in one place. Tether Gold is that real gold on the blockchain with ownership of physical gold bars. And it's not only a wallet to buy and save, but it also allows you to support your favorite creators by easily tipping them with the click of a button. There will be no fees when you tip our channel and others out there. So you can support our show and others by clicking that tip button on the RSBN Rumble channel and the others that you support out there, wallet.rumble.com. So you can download Rumble Wallet today, open an account. You can step away from the big banks for good. All you have to do is search Rumble Wallet in the app stores, download today, and get that ball rolling there with Rumble Wallet. Speaking of money, let's go to Kalshi or Kalshi.com/RSBN. 3 ways to get you to Kalshi. You can download the app. You can go to the QR code that you see on the bottom of your screen. You can also go to Kalshi.com/RSBN. And guess what? Thanks to our director here, sent me one of the latest political trending things that people are betting, trading, or just checking out polls. Specifically, what will Karoline Leavitt say in the next press briefing? So 61% of people are saying the word border, 47% saying fraud, and 44% saying Cuba. You can check it out too if you'd like, Kalshi.com/RSBN. Great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're approaching the top of the hour on this Monday, March 30th. Meantime, let's go to an interview with White House Deputy Comms Director Kaelan Dorr from within the hour. And joining us now here on RSBN is Deputy Assistant to the President and White House Deputy Comms Director Kaelan Dorr. Thanks so much for joining us, Kaelan.
It's great to see you, brother. I hope you all are doing really well. We see you out there on the streets bringing truth to power, and we appreciate all the work you're doing.
Thank you so much, Kaelan. And as you know, to your point, that 24/7 news cycle is rapidly changing. A lot to keep up with out there. How do you guys even juggle that at the comms department?
Oh, I mean, we're used to it. This has been 10 plus years of keeping up with the most active and transparent president that the world has ever seen. And we just see every day as a new challenge to keep up with him. I mean, he is, like I said, fully committed to transparency, to being aggressive on the comms and messaging. And I think that's what makes it different. Look, we had 4 years of Sleepy Joe. We all know what it looks like when a president is hiding something or is not interested in communicating to the American people. And that's just simply not how this should work.
Exactly. So on the other side of sleepiness, you are awake. So there's been that rapidly changing news cycle to the point that you guys are now creating and already have released that White House app. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. So you might have noticed we were at the #1 in news on both Apple and Android charts all weekend. We broke the top 5 several times this weekend, only below things like Google and some other very, very highly trafficked apps. And this is an attempt not only to subvert, obviously, the traditional media yet again in another creative way, but also just provide another line of transparency. Look, when you're doing as much as this president is doing on a daily basis, it is absolute malpractice not to be there and meet the American public where they are. And that's what, obviously, like what I just said, is the difference between us and the previous administration is like we didn't know who was making any of the decisions for 4 whole years. I mean, I don't think Sleepy Joe even knew who was making the decisions for 4 years. And now people are almost painfully aware of how much work we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And the app is incredible. If you haven't already, please go download it. It should pop up when you type the White House on either Apple or Android. And it's a place where you can find all the promises made, promises kept, how low the cost of some goods are under our administration, and a ton of other things. And we're really, really excited about this. And it's going to keep innovating. So you download it today. It's not going to look that way in a week or in a month. It's going to continue to develop and refine itself. I think some of the feedback we've seen is that the Obama administration launched something similar, only got about 400,000 downloads and during its run, and it didn't really change much. So we're fully committed to this being a project that continues to adapt and evolve over time.
And then to the next president, when it comes to Biden, their transparency compared to President Trump when it comes to the Q&A. I wonder if we were to count the amount of questions that have been asked to President Trump versus Biden. You remember after Joe was sitting there with various foreign leaders, he wouldn't even take questions. Isn't that ridiculous?
Well, it's 100%. It shows that they have something to hide, and it shows that they weren't really doing much to advocate for the interests of the American people at large. And I think, hate him or love him, this president is all about results. He's all about driving tangible quality of life improvements for the American people, and he's relentless in communicating that. And the guy, we've already talked about, he doesn't sleep, he doesn't rest, he's constantly working, and he's thinking through the problem in a very pragmatic way. And it doesn't matter. It's so funny. I think, Joe Biden, anytime he would do an open press event, they would prep him with, here are the reporters. You've seen the famous viral photos of him with the palm cards that have the lists of reporters and the questions they're going to ask. And we really pride ourselves in not telling, the media what it is that they should or shouldn't say or what they should or shouldn't ask of the president, because he's up to the challenge. He's up to communicating them. And that just shows how involved he is in the process from nuts to bolts. We're never going to stop doing that. We're never going to stop finding ways to innovate and communicate to the American public wherever they are. It's an indictment of the political class in this country that not only does the president, he gets elected, he says something, he does that thing, people freak out, but also that he says something and he continues to say something, he openly communicates that people freak out about it and people get up in arms that this president communicates. It's absurd to me. I will never understand it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what we've seen here at Right Side as well. Now, on top of that, let's dive into a few of those news cycle stories that we're seeing out there. Everything from the Save America Act to Operation Epic Fury. How about the DHS and TSA Democratic fiasco that we've been seeing when it comes to those long lines? But let's start first with the Save America Act. I know the president was asked about this yesterday, and it seems as if the majority leader is saying there's just not enough votes to even nuke the filibuster. So it's kind of an interesting situation, but how do you see it maybe panning out?
I think this administration is not going to stop until this is a very key promise we made on the campaign. This is something we've talked about at large for since I can remember, right? I mean, this has always been an issue that we've talked about, and I think we've reached a logical conclusion on how this policy issue be attacked. And, I think the president will continue to leverage everything that he has to push this bill as far as we possibly can. And, I think if you're a member of the public and you want this passed in some way, shape, or form, then, it would be incumbent upon you to go and inform your member of Congress. That's something that we are very, very inclined to ask people to do, if only because we think, like I said before, we believe in full transparency across the board. So it's something the president will, I think, obviously advocate for until he wraps up his time here. And, hopefully Congress gets on board. We can find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, it'd be great to see that. Let's shift gears to the Middle East right now when it comes to the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. It's kind of like the last regime. The cuffs were on, and it was DEI and all the things. And now Pete's able to go out there and do his job as ordered. Isn't it nice to have, or great to have, a Secretary of War that does the job that he's told?
Well, 100%. And I think what people fail to understand when they are sitting through and they're calculating how this ongoing conflict is going to resolve itself, everyone's stressed out. They opine about what may or may not happen. And there's a lot of hypotheticals. Everyone on the internet seems to be a foreign policy expert now, which is truly astounding. I mean, kudos to everyone who overnight got their degree in foreign conflicts. I think that's a really great thing for everyone to have done. But what I'd like to leave everyone with is that you should trust this president. He has an outstanding record on foreign policy and issues here domestically as well. And he's earned the benefit of the doubt. So even if you're one of those people who, doesn't quite know how they feel about the ongoing conflict, rest assured that the president is going to find a way to solve this problem in a way that puts America first. He has literally every time. The guy has solved more wars, in a year than most people solve in a lifetime. And like I said, he's earned the benefit of the doubt by far.
And speaking of America first, tell us about TSA and DHS. What is the latest there? It's still a partial government shutdown, but isn't there money now going to TSA to pay for the officers to get in there and take care of business, or is it still with ICE helping out?
I believe as of today, those TSA agents should start seeing money flow into their accounts. They should be getting paid. And listen, this Democrat shutdown is a shame. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't have happened the way that it did. And this is simply because this is a wonderful reminder yet again that Democrats on Capitol Hill are in love. They are infatuated with the idea of letting illegal immigrants roam our country unchecked. They love the idea of defunding ICE and some of these other institutions that basically are police. And so when you think about it, this is another way of them saying they want to defund the police from the beginning. This is a very controversial thing, several election cycles in a row, and that's what they're advocating for. And so, the president is, again, committed to resolving all of these issues, and will not take anything off the table as we go through and do that. But I think as the most granular update is that those TSA agents should be getting paid here, if not today, this week.
And then hopefully any flights that are happening, of course, people don't have I saw a 6-hour wait in Houston. I mean, it's just got ridiculous, as you know. And before I let you go, let's talk a little inside baseball there at the comms department, because last year, the White House Special Assistant to the President, Margot Martin, posted a video showing Karoline Leavitt and the team there praying before they went out there to the press conference. So what is it like to be a part of a team that is at the highest office of the land, working for the 47th Commander-in-Chief?
Well, Matt, this has been the honor of a lifetime. As you know, I was here. We opened up shop last administration. I've been with the president since the early days in Trump Tower, and it is a blessing and an honor not only to work for him, but to work with a team that is all rowing in the same direction with one shared goal in mind, and that is to effectively communicate all of the, like I said, tangible quality of life improvements that this president has provided the American people. And it is an honor. It is an honor to watch Karoline work, our comms director, Stephen Chung. But I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to the folks here, especially on the digital side of things. People who are innovating the way that we communicate in a way that I think they're going to write about in the history books. Doing things like launching this app, which is just truly astounding. And I gotta say, you gotta go, if you pull out your phone right now, I know you're watching right side, do the little window in the top left corner for me, and go download the White House app, both on Apple or Android. Do it right now. But these guys are all committed. They're fully bought in to doing things that have never been done before. And I think that is really what makes our shop just truly exceptional and extraordinary. And it means we're never going to stop. We're going to be relentless in the pursuit of firsts. And so I give a big shout out to them.
Awesome. White House Deputy Communications Director Kaelan Dorr, thank you again for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Thank you, brother.
All right, so it's 12:10 here on Monday, March 30th. Let's go to a few of our sponsors before we move on, talking about the Save America Act and a number of other stories that we're monitoring in this 24/7 rapidly changing news cycle. Let's go to Cove Pier. Cove Pier says, a lot of people tend to go overboard buying new supplements, trying a new diet or workout, but completely ignoring the most important basic thing, water. So even mild dehydration impacts energy and focus and metabolism. And when you think about all the garbage that's in our water, you're starting behind the curve before you even begin. And Cove Pure changes that immediately. Their ClearWave technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants, pretty much anything that isn't water. So these PFAs or microplastics or pharmaceutical residue, how about fluoride? It all gets removed. It's the purest water you can get. And what's amazing about Cove Pure is another thing. When you drink the water, there's no aftertaste. That tap water aftertaste, it's awful in my opinion. But you have this great sponsor here and this great product that you see on your screen. Now, specifically, if you'd like to not do the whole big overhaul, but just make one small upgrade that adds up every single day, drinking clean water, right now you can get that $250 off for a limited time if you use the link that you see on the screen. So it's covepure.com/RSBN. Again, that's covepure.com/RSBN. Great sponsor here at Right Side. Let's move on to Angel Paste as well. Angelpaste.com. Now, 10% off with the RSBN promo code. You've got the QR code right there out of Spring, Texas, that this great company has sent us a shipment at the Alvarez household. My wife's using the products now, And yesterday she gave me some of the product too to wipe on my skin. I was like, okay, I actually used angel paste, and it's awesome. So good stuff there, angelpaste.com. Check it out. RSBN is the promo code, 10% off as we continue our live stream here on Right Side. It's 12/12, Monday, March 30th. Let's go to the very latest on the Save America Act. So I dove into some of the numbers. We're going to get into that in a second. But President Trump on Truth Social released a statement about ending the filibuster, saying, quote, "It is time for the Senate filibuster to end. Those weak and ineffective Republican senators that stand in the way of this should be exposed to the public. The Democrats are crazy." He also said in a previous statement, quote, "The Republicans must do with passion and at the expense of everything else the Save America Act." He also said, "and not the watered down version." President Trump said on a previous Truth Social post, "This is a country-defining fight for the soul of our nation." All right, so let's dive into the latest on the Save America Act on this Monday, March 30th. This is the fast track. Check it out. I posted about it yesterday. After research, after looking at AI when it's Grok and verifying articles and seeing what various people are saying, there is the latest information right there specifically on the screen. Let's go over it because it's very important in my opinion, and I know a lot of other people's opinion as well. So remember that this is not 1996. This is 2026. The political landscape has changed, and progressive Democrats, they're going to nuke the filibuster if they get back in power and have the majority. So Republicans have when? Right now to take care of business for we the people. So let's go over what you're seeing. You already read it, I'm sure, but here it is. Obviously, there are 53 Republican U.S. senators. On March 17th, as you read there, 51 Republican senators said, you know what, let's bring the Save America Act to the Senate floor for debate. Okay, great, wonderful. Then we know what has happened. They're on recess right now. I'm seeing that they might be coming back early. We'll see, though. We'll have to confirm that. So next up, you see there, number 3, 51 votes. How are we going to use the nuclear option? You have to have 51 votes in order to end that filibuster. Then after that, 51 votes are needed to pass the legislation to President Trump's desk in order for the Save America Act to be signed into law. That's the fast track. That's the game plan. That is the playbook, the winning playbook to get it done for the Save America Act. The question now remains, are there the 51 votes needed to end the filibuster? According to the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, the answer is no. There are a number of senators that say they're not going to nuke the filibuster. There are a number that say they want to nuke the filibuster, including Senator Tommy Tuberville and others. How about Senator Rick Scott over the weekend at CPAC saying the same thing? He called it, quote, blow up the filibuster. So that is common sense, to be honest, reporting right there. That's the information that I'm seeing. That's the fast track to get the job done for the Save America Act. And how about a number of other things that need to be taken care of? Because if we don't do it now, they may do it then if they get the power back through a free and fair election, hopefully, through voter ID and proof of citizenship and no mail-in ballots unless it's military and medical. So that's it. I'm not going to harp on this broadcast anymore. I'm not even going to really bring it up throughout the week because you know what? What else can you do other than talk about it, right? But we have to see it play its course, and we'll know that we tried, you tried, by speaking out, by praying hard, by your votes, by contacting senators, whether it's calling or emailing or on social media, to get the job done. So we have United States citizens voting in, guess what? United States elections. Wow. Who would have thunk it, as they say. So that's the deal. It's 51 senators need to vote in order to pass the nuclear option. And guess what? It's happened before in 2013 and in 2017. However, those were only for nominations. They were not for general legislation. But as I mentioned earlier, this is not 1996, it's 2026. The political landscape has changed. You've seen what's happened out there in our country. So once the radical Democrats or progressive Democrats who have already said that they want to nuke the filibuster to pass through all sorts of things. That's what we're facing. So maybe that's why maybe some of you are saying, why do you talk about the Save America Act all the time? Well, that's because we're trying to literally, and this isn't drama, literally save the country here. I don't want our country to be the United States of Europe. It's America. Save America. Let's take a quick commercial break and think about it a little bit. I'll be right back.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Thanks so much for live streaming into this broadcast. If you're watching live, thank you. And if you're watching this on replay, thanks again for watching. We're getting ready to see Karoline Leavitt, the conservative rock star there at the White House. We'll be watching that press briefing in about an hour or so. And then on top of that, what kind of questions will be asked of Karoline today? We'll see. A lot of news going on, as you guys know. We've been monitoring, tracking all those stories and talking about all of them, most of them at least, I would say all of them, all of the ones that really affect the nation. If you just check some of our our archives just from recently, all sorts of stories about transparency, accountability, and what's needed to save the nation. But anyway, let's go to the following. Birch Gold Group. Now, in 2006, $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. But at today's prices, those 33 ounces would be worth about $165,000. So a lot of Americans, smart Americans, are diversifying a portion of their savings into precious metals. And that's why you might want to consider buying from our friends at Birch Gold Group, specifically gold and precious metals. For thousands of years, gold has been a store of wealth, and today it's a crucial part of any balanced strategy. Even better, Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered retirement account in gold. So to get this all started, you see it right there. Just text Trump to 989898. You'll get a free info kit on gold. Now, this place is great. They have an A+ rating with that Better Business Bureau. They're not going to bug you, to buy our gold. They don't need to. Gold is gold, right? So just text Trump to 989898 and check out that free info kit on gold. Let's also go to one more sponsor here on Right Side, Tax Network USA. You can settle your back taxes today. Go to 877-479-6503. You see tnusa.com/RSBN. Obviously, it is tax season, big time. April 15th is nearing. Hopefully, you're getting a refund in your federal taxes, maybe. I know a lot of people are, maybe even in the state taxes. Speaking of that, got a smaller refund in the state taxes, and went to a store to cash the check just yesterday, and guess what? What did they ask me for? An ID. Same thing should be happening for voting for everybody across this nation. But anyway, Tax Network USA, 877-479-6503. Give them a call. They'll help you along the way when it comes to everything taxes. And also, if you missed some of the years in the past, these guys are going to help you out there with all the game plan to get everything taken care of. So 877-479-6503. All right, good afternoon and welcome back into RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. All right, so at 1 o'clock, Karoline Leavitt will hold a press briefing at the White House. This is as we're monitoring the latest with Operation Epic Fury, hoping that it's surgical strikes and that's it, right? I mean, that's what people are saying out there. Nobody, who says they want a ground war? How many would really say that? Maybe a few, but most of the people are saying no way. So we'll monitor all of that. Plus, where the Save America Act stands and what's needed in order for it to be signed into law. If you're just joining us, we went over the numbers. And this is as simple as this. And this is what I like about common sense. Not a lot of people use it, but the people that do use it, you connect with them a lot easier. All it takes is 51 Senate Republicans to say, you know what? Let's go with the nuclear option. Let's end the filibuster. Let's, as President Trump said, terminate the filibuster. We are 51 votes away from saying we are going to end this filibuster and we're going to pass the Save America Act. But getting those 51, that's a different question. We'll see what happens with it. I mean, what are we supposed to do? Just give up and say, oh, forget it, move on, next topic? Might have to actually do that, unfortunately, because we need to get those 51 votes. Simple as that. Meantime, I recently caught up with the White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson to talk about the 24/7 news cycle. This interview was on Thursday of last week, but some of the stories in there specifically still pertain to this 24/7 cycle. Joining us now is White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson. Thanks again for joining us here on Right Side.
Yeah, great to be here with you.
Definitely. So let's talk about the new Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Markwayne Mullin. I understand he has quite the role in the administration now.
Yes, we are very excited to have Secretary Mullin sworn in and confirmed. He is going to do an excellent job carrying the torch and continuing to implement the president's agenda at the department. In just over a year, look at all of the tremendous accomplishments that the president has achieved relating to the Department of Homeland Security. The border is totally secure. That is something that Joe Biden and Democrats said they needed legislation for. President Trump proved we just needed a new president to do that. Under President Trump's leadership, the Department of Homeland Security has deported many, many criminal illegal aliens, and Markwayne Mullin is going to do a great job keeping that up, removing these threats from American communities. And Secretary Mullin is also just going to do a good job keeping the homeland secure, making sure the hardworking men and women of DHS have the resources they need, and really doing a great job carrying the president's agenda forward.
Exactly. And to your point, seeing that southern border closed, I mean, it felt like that was something that happened right away as soon as the president became the 47th Commander-in-Chief. Shifting gears slightly back to Markwayne Mullin right now, one of the late night hosts tried to pick fun at Secretary Mullin, saying in his past life he was an MMA fighter and a plumber. Sounds like a great American patriot to me. And let's not forget, he campaigned and was elected by the people of Oklahoma to serve as a U.S. Senator. Your thoughts about that?
I saw that clip too, and I had the exact same reaction. I think it's disgusting and a perfect example of late night hosts and liberals' elitism on full display. They think that just because Secretary Mullin in his past life worked a job that many hardworking Americans work, that somehow that makes him not qualified for this role. I would say, if anything, it makes him more qualified because he understands what is important to average, everyday Americans who aren't just constantly watching cable news and paying attention to politics. They just care about keeping their families safe and living their lives. And Secretary Mullin understands that better than most. That's a strength, not a weakness.
Exactly. Resonating with we the people, always a good thing to do. And meantime, as you know, the TSA security lines have been unprecedented, thanks to the Democrats, of course. But now that ICE is helping out at some airports, things are going a bit smoother in some airports at this point, right?
Yes, and since we last talked, the situation with TSA officers has just gotten worse. Almost 500 TSA employees have now outright quit because they're missing paychecks. Thanks to the Democrat shutdown, they need to go make money and feed their families, so they're leaving altogether. But as you mentioned, President Trump made the bold decision to send ICE officers to airports to help alleviate some of the pressure. And the clips we're seeing on social media and local news, and also the results we're seeing in some of these airports, speak for themselves. Lines have gone down. ICE officers are able to help with crowd control, with basic security functions, and even with the challenges that come with having travelers wait in hour-long lines, making sure everyone is safe and healthy. Their extra manpower has made a tremendous difference. We are very, very grateful for our hardworking men and women of ICE, but ultimately what our goal is to get the department funded again and to get these TSA employees paid. They are working hard and they deserve it. The Democrats' decision is hurting them, and it's getting worse by the day.
And I saw some videos as well at some of the airports where people were either congratulating or just saluting or just thanking a number of ICE agents for their service. Isn't that so different from what the mainstream media tries to paint a picture of? And some of those, either paid activists or the woke types that are out there that would protest. But really, the American people are saying, thank you guys for what you're doing.
There's a reason you're not seeing those clips on CNN or MSNBC or any other liberal outlet. There's a reason you're only seeing those clips circulate online and through alternative media platforms, and why Americans don't trust the mainstream media anymore, because it's not sharing the reality. And the reality is the American people are very appreciative for ICE. They're appreciative when they do work in their communities and get criminal illegal aliens out of their hometowns, but they're also appreciative when they see the men and women of ICE at airports trying to help them out in this situation that the Democrats have created. So it's totally counter to the mainstream media's narrative on ICE, and that's why you're not seeing the mainstream media show those clips. But I'm glad you guys are talking about it, and I'm glad that the American people are talking about it.
100%. And finally, shifting now to the Save America Act. In a perfect world, that would be passed and DHS fully funded so we could move on, right?
Yes. The president has been very clear. He wants the Save America Act passed into law. But more than the president's desires, I think it's important to stress how much the American people support the Save America Act. Over 90% of Americans, including Republicans and Democrats, support the common sense provisions in this legislation, like voter ID. When you cast your ballot, you should have to prove you are who you say you are. It's that simple. And so the president will continue firing on all cylinders to get this legislation across the finish line. And to your point, he also knows how important it is to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Luckily for us, this president can do many things at one time, and so he's focused on those two priorities, as well as a host of other things he's working on for the American people.
President Trump joking today in the cabinet meeting that one day in Trump days is like an eternity, which got a laugh out of everybody. And a number of us were laughing here at the network too. But quite the cabinet meeting today. But thank you so much, White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson, for joining us again here on Right Side.
Great to be here. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Okay, so that interview aired, of course, or recorded on Thursday. Just didn't get a chance to air it until today. So thanks so much for live streaming in with us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network on this Monday, March 30th. All right, a lot of news, as you guys know, out there as we get ready to hear a lot of the news topics from Karoline Leavitt as well. Let's take a moment to tell you about one of our trusted sponsors, All Family Pharmacy. So if you're someone who believes in medical freedom, who supports the MAHA movement, and who's frustrated with a healthcare system that puts insurance companies and government bureaucracies before you and your doctor, All Family Pharmacy is for you. They are an independent American pharmacy. They're not a chain, and they give you that direct access to the medications you need, including ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, and more than 400 generic medications without all of the runaround. So right now, exclusively for all of our viewers here on RSBN, you get 25% off. Use that RSBN 25 promo code. Here's how it works. So you go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You'll fill out a medical form. A licensed U.S. physician reviews your request, prescribes if appropriate, and then your medication ships directly to your door. And with spring here and allergies and travel, uncertainty in the world, right now is a great time to be prepared. So you can order ahead and be ready. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use code RSBN25 for 25% off, as this sale, this 25% off sale, is ending at the end of the month, which I was wondering, is it March 31st is tomorrow, right? Yes, of course. March 31st is tomorrow. So it's the last day coming up with all family pharmacy for that 25% off. Let's go to angelpace.com as well. Use that RSBN promo code there too. 10% off at checkout. A lot of great products there on angelpace.com. You could peruse the site. You could check out various ones, including the flagship product, the Miracle Cream. There's also mists and lotions and all sorts of skincare products. Angelpace.com, great sponsor out of Spring, Texas. Hello to all of you once again in the Lone Star State and wherever you're watching from coast to coast, and also in that central time zone and the mountain time zone as well, and maybe some other places around the country, including Alaska, Hawaii, and in some cases around the world. All right, let's go now to the presidential tenor himself, Christopher Macchio, who will talk to us about America 250 and a few thoughts on Operation Epic Fury. Christopher, it's been a minute since we've spoke, but it's always interesting to see what you get involved with when it comes to, America 250 and all of the various events that you get to perform at.
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride, of course. And by the way, thank you for having me. You guys are doing a fantastic job keeping the American public abreast in the way that you do. So thank you for everything you guys are doing. It's been a really great ride. America 250, of course, is a tremendous celebration that President Trump is committed to celebrating to the fullest extent possible. And he's really doing that not just through the celebrations, but also through his extremely strong policy initiatives and the efforts to restore and safeguard American preeminence throughout the world. Of course, including the recent actions in the Middle East and so forth. So it's an amazing privilege and a high honor to be a witness to this, both as an American citizen, but also someone who's fortunate to sometimes have a front row seat. We had, of course, the Saudi Crown Prince with us in November at the White House State Dinner that I was privileged to perform at. And now the president and the administration have asked me to participate in the America 250 celebrations. We're going to have a tremendous, I'm not authorized to leak any details on this, but there's going to be a really tremendous celebration on July 4th in our nation's capital. And, our president, of course, is quite the master showman. So the scale and impressiveness of this demonstration and this celebration is going to be off the charts. Nobody is ever going to have seen anything like this, and only our president could put something like this together. So again, it's my highest honor to play a part in that.
Well, Christopher, you're now dealing with a journalist who asks questions. You're going to have to share something from this event in July. I mean, I know that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All I can say is there's going to be a really, really big stage. It might be the biggest stage anybody's ever seen. And it's going to be very, very prominently located in a very high profile location right in the heart of our nation's capital. And there are going to be a lot of very tremendously respected artists that are going to take part in this. It's going to be something really special. And I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls in elements from other aspects of the government that can help us celebrate an occasion like the 4th of July. Let's just say that.
All right, definitely. You don't have to confirm or deny, but I'm thinking that the UFC fight that's going to happen on the South Lawn, I'm wondering if someone like you might be singing the national anthem. There's a guess. I don't know. You don't have to tell me. It's
yeah,
okay.
That's not confirmed, but don't be too surprised if you hear a national anthem performed from the middle of an octagon. So don't be too shocked. But it might be the first opera singer ever to enter the octagon. But hopefully just for musical purposes. And I gotta get in a better shape if I want to entertain any other possibilities in that space. But Dana White does a fantastic job. UFC is just an amazing organization, and the White House is. There's really no venue that's just more impressive, and that means more around the world. And so it's going to be, that's of course, as you know, on the president's birthday. So it's going to be, it was just a coincidence that, it worked out that way. And so we're going to have the double honor of celebrating what a wonderful American sport, but also our president's birthday.
And on top of that, Flag Day. So it's just quite the day on that day as well. But let's shift over to a couple stories that are happening within the 24/7 news cycle before we move on. We'll talk about the Save America Act second, but let's talk about Operation Epic Fury first, because a lot of people are saying we just don't want a ground war. And we know that Pete Hegseth said this is not an Iraq situation. So just what's your take on what's going on there? I mean, surgical strikes, people can get behind that. They did for Venezuela and others. So what are your thoughts?
Well, at the end of the day, all options need to be on the table in order to successfully prosecute any mission. The American military, which of course has been for a very long time the most fearsome and lethal fighting force around the globe, is constructed the way it is to give our president, our commander-in-chief, the widest possible array of options in prosecuting our goals as a nation. So America First means securing our interests, not just for today, not just for tomorrow, but 10, 20 years down the road. So we can take the lessons from wars or conflicts like Afghanistan and Iraq, and then apply those lessons to the present scenario, present situation. My personal feeling, not being a military commander, of course, and not having had the privilege of serving, but from what I've gathered, it seems like some black ops and some surgical strikes might be possible at the president's disposal. He doesn't have to go that route. I think that the Iranian military has been substantially decimated as it is. As the president has let us know, they have no navy, they have no air force, and eventually the stockpiles of missiles are going to run out. So if we can continue to exert pressure, if we can get those islands in the Persian Gulf secured, whether that takes some kind of military presence for a short period of time, that's an option that the president has to reserve the right to. This is not Afghanistan or Iraq in the sense that this is not a country that is going to require long-term occupation. This is not a Colin Powell doctrine, overwhelming force, 500,000 boots on the ground, nation building with Bremer type of scenario. This is an area, a country that has many thousands of years of civilization. And you really just have to give the people of Iran the opportunity to overthrow a regime that really never matched that population's temperament to begin with. I have actually personally had the privilege of getting to know this community through the Persian diaspora around the world over decades. 21 years ago, I came in contact with these with the Persian expat communities around the country and throughout Europe. And these folks could not be further in temperament from the regime that happens to be in charge right now. Okay? If you give these people the proper opportunity, as Bibi Netanyahu has so eloquently articulated over the last few weeks of this conflict, they will take up the mantle and they will restore an American Western-aligned regime in that capital, Tehran. But you've got to hit the IRGC. It is not going to require, most likely, some long-term commitment. Again, every option always needs to be on the table because the enemy needs to know that there's nowhere that they can hide, that there's no card that they can play that is going to wait us out, that's going to, call our bluff. There is no bluffing. we will do whatever is necessary. But in my personal view, that kind of long-term commitment is not likely to be necessary. I think that some sustained strikes on all of the ZEPA IRGC installations around the country will most likely be sufficient to give the population in this country the space that they need to overthrow that government and to install a regime that is aligned with President Trump's interests, with America First interests. And as somebody who supports the old regime, the regime that was faithful to American interests, that was aligned with the Western worldview. This is the flag right here of the old regime. This is, of course, the American flag, and this represents the Tehran-Washington axis that will emerge from this special military operation that President Trump, in my view, has so wisely initiated, along with our great ally, Israel.
And then when we look at another story that a lot of people are talking about, the 24/7 news cycle, we have about 30 seconds, the Save America Act. Are you on the train, on the team of the nuclear option in the sense of the specifics of terminating the filibuster that President Trump has been talking about in order to pass the Save America Act?
You know, at the end of the day, I, as much of a traditionalist as I consider myself to be, if President Trump feels that this is the option that is going to safeguard our interests and get the ball, into the end zone here, then I'm all for whatever strategy President Trump is convinced is going to be effective in this scenario. So my support lies squarely with President Trump, our commander-in-chief, on this.
All right, and that's what many are saying out there, to get rid of the filibuster in order to pass the Save America Act. As we know, it's not 1996 anymore, it's 2026. The political landscape has changed, I mean, your thoughts about that
unfortunately, you don't see any kind of the kind of legislative progress that used to occur. This climate has been poisoned. Of course, even going back before Obama, but particularly with President Obama, unfortunately. And by the way, I want to make one little comment. Somebody made demeaning remarks about our nominee for Homeland Security. And I want to point out that those same people that are making those elitist comments are the same people that are hoping AOC, a bartender from the Bronx, should run for president. So I think keeping their hypocrisy in check would be a well-advised move also.
Referring to, of course, the lovely beta male himself, Jimmy Kimmel.
There you go. There's a reason that guy is always a hair's width away from getting canceled, and his pal over on CBS has been canceled. So unfortunately, they did it to themselves. They didn't follow the Jay Leno formula where you just stay in the center and focus on the comedy. Even somebody who is essentially progressive like Conan O'Brien has said, they've forfeited their best weapon, which is just straight right down the middle comedy. And they've gone to an agenda-based approach. And as we like to say, go woke, go broke.
Make comedy great again. The presidential tenor, Christopher Macchio, thank you again for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Thank you so much, and God bless.
God bless you, sir. All right, it's 12:44, Monday, March 30th. We are live here on Right Side. Let's go through a few of our sponsors as we get ready to go to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue for the press conference with Karoline Leavitt. And you may have seen some of the conversations happening online lately. Censorship is back, happening everywhere. Platforms thinking they're slick, trying to control narratives and push the stuff they want us to see. Well, we could fight back in the information and financial arena because Rumble is one of the only companies that has stood the test of time and deserves our support. On one side, Rumble is challenging big tech censorship, but now on the other side, they have introduced something that will give us protection from the big banks shutting us off. And as some may know, conservatives in the past, banks can cancel and our accounts and also freeze our cards. So with Rumble Wallet, you control your money. Not a bank, not a government, not a tech company, not even Rumble can touch it. It's yours and only yours, yours to protect your future and family. So all you have to do to get the ball rolling is go to wallet.rumble.com or search Rumble Wallet in the app stores. Specifically, you can see you can also use crypto when it comes to Rumble Wallet. So there's just a lot of advancement there. As you see, free speech meets financial freedom, Rumble Wallet. You can download that today. Let's go to Kalshi.com as well, Kalshi.com/RSBN. A lot of political trending topics that people are betting or trading or just checking out polls on. I believe the director sent me one earlier, so I want to get that one back out here specifically for today. It is this one. What will Karoline Leavitt say in the next press briefing? So people are actually monitoring this live when it comes up here in the next 15 minutes or so, or whenever the actual press briefing starts. What will Karoline Leavitt say in the next press briefing? So what we're seeing, the word border, 61% are saying that she'll say the word border. How about fraud? 47%. How about Cuba? 44%. So those are three words that people are tracking with and will be monitoring. And a number of them right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. How about America for Save America Act? You know, how about Operation Epic Fury, maybe Epic, I don't know. Anyway, it's 12:46 Monday, March 30th. Let's do this. Let's go over a few of our specific videos that we have here for you. And if you're just joining us, we spoke with the White House Deputy Comms Director, Kaelan Dorr, and also the White House Deputy Press Secretary, Abigail Jackson, earlier in the broadcast. If you'd like to check out those interviews, you can always replay maybe this live stream a bit later today. And we also have a couple videos from the White House on the golden age of agriculture and highlights from President Trump's recent speech in Miami. Let's take a look.
Golden age of American agriculture is right here and right now, and I'm thrilled to welcome all of you to the South Lawn for the single largest gathering of American farmers that the White House has ever seen.
Super honored to be here at the White House and grateful to Trump and the administration for allowing me to come and represent the farmers of this great nation.
We are celebrating 250 years of agriculture in this country, and we're excited for the future. There's a lot more agriculture and a lot more advancements to come.
To be an American farmer, to be supported at this level by our president, I can't thank him enough.
No one has stood more proudly, more strongly, more courageously for this man, this transformational president at this moment in our country's history than you all, our farmers and ranchers.
We really appreciate this event. It's good to see agriculture being representative here at the White House.
My husband and I, as first-generation ranchers, are putting in the work to make sure that our ranch becomes a multi-generation ranch.
We worked so hard to keep the ranch in the family and the family in the ranch, and you've helped us do that.
Thank you so much, President Trump, for having us here at the White House today. It's such an honor.
Hi, I'm Granny.
And I'm Kaelan Dorr, and we just want to say thank you, President Trump, for having us to the White House to celebrate agriculture, regulation, and product of the USA labeling. We're very excited about that.
I'm Natalie Kovorek. I am a cattle rancher from Nebraska, and I'm so excited to be here in DC this week. It's a really big week for farmers and ranchers across the nation. We created an act with more integrity around the product of the USA labeling, and it's really great to see that. Now consumers know when they're in the grocery store that that label means it was born, raised, and harvested here, which is a win for consumers, but also for us ranchers back home.
I'm Tara Vanderdusen, and I'm a dairy farmer from New Mexico, and I just want to say on behalf of dairy farmers across the country, thank you to President Trump for passing the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act. That was such a big win, not only for dairy farmers, but for school-aged children across the country to get access to whole milk in their school lunches.
Jeremiah Fott, Pennsylvania Farm Bureau. President Trump, thank you for having us all out here to the White House. I specifically appreciate your deregulatory stance, cutting red flags for farmers.
I'm Amy France from Scott City, Kansas. I'm the chairwoman of National Sorghum Producers. President Trump, thank you so much for realizing the urgency. Trade is important for every American farmer. The previous administration did nothing, but you've stepped up with speed and focus.
I'm John Bolts from Yuma, Arizona, and where I farm is right in the shadow of the border wall, right along the border. So border security is a big deal for those of us farming and ranching in southern Arizona. Really appreciate the efforts there. Also appreciate the efforts to keep agriculture supplied with labor.
Hi, my name is Dennis DeLauder, and I'm a rice farmer in Texas, also a market analyst.
So I get a firsthand look at what the One Big Beautiful Bill has done for producers as I work with many of them.
It feels like we actually have somebody that's willing to listen to us and hear us out on needs and concerns that we have. And it's nice to have that conversation that's open.
President Trump has done everything he could to keep the farmer at base zero so that way we can stay in business for the following year.
As the CEO of U.S. Rice Producers Association, I know just how important it is for our farmers to have the support of our administration in being able to have markets to sell their rice.
The One Big Beautiful Bill has literally saved the rice industry at this point in time. The increase in the reference price has been a huge benefit, and it's actually allowed acres to continue to be planted. Many farmers would never have planted this year had it not been for the One Big Beautiful Bill.
I'm confident that the Trump administration will stand alongside our farmers in making sure they have the strongest markets available to sell their product.
So right now, the One Big Beautiful Bill is purely beautiful.
America is ending the threat posed by this radical regime, decimating Iran's capabilities with Operation Epic Fury, something that nobody's ever seen anything quite like it. We have the most powerful military in the world. In the meantime, the conflict in Iran also makes it absolutely vital for the radical left Democrats in Congress to immediately end their dangerous shutdown of our Department of Homeland Security. For 42 days, they've tried to completely eliminate funding for the number one duty of government, which is keeping America safe. They want to have our borders be open again. Over the past 14 months, the Trump administration has achieved perhaps the most dramatic one-year turnaround of any nation in all of history. Our country is prospering again. Our economy is booming again, and America is respected again all over the world, perhaps like never before. And in America, we don't fear the future, we invent the future.
All right, so we're going to get an update from the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. Also, the comms team there at the Department of War posted a number of recent videos on X, including from over the weekend at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. Before we go to that video and before we go to the White House for Karoline's press briefing, let's go to a number of our sponsors. And also, if you'd like to donate to Right Side, all you have to do is go to rsbnetwork.com/donate. You know, a lot of places out there, maybe you have to pay for cable and all these other things. Well, you don't really have to do any of that here. You're able to just, open up Rumble or open up X or, Truth Social or YouTube, anywhere really. How about, there's a number of places you watch us, right? Well, if you'd like to donate as we grow and expand, just go to rsbnetwork.com/donate. And to those of you that have donated checks and written letters to myself and the network and Robert McNeely and others here, the owners, the Seals family, thank you so much for doing so. We read them. I've read a number of them. I actually have one right over there that was addressed to Bobby and I. So pretty cool stuff. So thanks again for, being with us every step of the way over the past, how many years now? 10 plus. I've been here since 2022, in September 3rd of 2022. I'll always remember that date. It was my first time in conservative media, and man, is that the right thing to do. Get away from the mainstream lies and narrative and junk, jump to the right side of history. And also, it was in my home state of Pennsylvania, in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, when the candidate, President Trump, arrived right there. And it was an awesome arena, everybody chanting USA, and I said, man, it's good to be home. Anyway, rsbnetwork.com/donate. Also, mypillow.com, a great sponsor, of course, Mike Lindell. We've interviewed Mike a number of times here, whether on the broadcast or in person out there at various rallies across the country. Remember one in Robstown, Texas. That was a good interview there, and just great to see all of the love for Mike Lindell. Also, mypillow.com/RSBN. So you're helping out MyPillow, you're helping out RSBN, but guess what? You're getting great products in return with mypillow.com/RSBN. I believe I did wear the My Slippers to work today. I'm not wearing them now, but I did wear them today because you know what? I had to rush in to get here because I was already producing for today's broadcast and all that. But anyway, enough of that. mypillow.com/RSBN. All right, so it's 12:55. We're approaching that top of the hour here in just a few minutes. Let's do this. Let's go to the Secretary of War as he delivered a number of speeches over the weekend, including at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your
historic leadership on Operation Epic Fury. The success you've laid out was only possible because of the military you rebuilt, as well as the historic success here in Memphis. And I want to start by thanking every patriot in this room, in law enforcement, and the nearly 1,500 National Guard members for your heroic efforts in this operation.
The Secretary of War just signed a directive to ensure that all National Guard members serving on this task force, as well as in D.C., New Orleans, and our border security missions, will receive the same benefits as active duty troops because you deserve it.
Not enough people know the dynamic nature of what you undertake on a daily basis. I get a chance to look under the hood and see it a little bit. When you look at the logistics and the coordination that it takes to sustain what's happening in Operation Epic Fury, no other country on planet Earth could even remotely come close to what you do, to what you execute, and how you execute it. But ultimately, I couldn't be more grateful for the commitment that all of you make. And it's our job to serve you. And just know that at every step and every way that we can, we're here to have your back. This wall, these names, truly sacred ground. And what's said on that flag, that POW MIA flag, is you are not forgotten. And we say a lot, often, never forget. But today I would ask you to go one step further than never forget. Yes, we will never forget, but more importantly, we will always remember. We will always remember what they gave, the courage they showed, those 58,000, the vast majority volunteers from big cities and small towns, city boys and country boys, shoulder to shoulder, fighting for each other. And I can say, as a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, it is the Vietnam generation that looked at us and said, welcome home. That looked at us and said, we have your back. That looked at us and separated the politics from the warriors. They walked up and shook our hands. And then we had a chance to look back at them and say, welcome home. As I reported to you in December, in previous administrations, our chaplain corps was infected by political correctness and secular humanism. The core functions of the chaplain corps were changed and watered down until they were viewed by many as nothing more than therapists. Faith and virtue were traded for self-help and self-care. We started correcting that drift then, and today we're going further. The crucible of combat tests more than the body. It tests conviction, character, and spirit. The military's chaplain corps serves as the spiritual and moral backbone of our nation's armed forces. Chaplains help forge spiritual readiness across the force. And that matters because in combat, in crisis, and in loss, a warfighter needs more than a coping mechanism. They need truth, big T truth. They need conviction. They need a shepherd. And as I've said before, spiritual health is equally important to a service member's physical and emotional health. This update is part of our efforts to return the Chaplain Corps to its core mission of serving the spiritual needs of our warfighters, 82% of whom identify as being religious. Today, I want to update you on 2 reforms we are undertaking to further make sure we're making the Chaplain Corps great again. In December, I told you that we were going to revamp the military's current faith and belief coding system, renaming it the Religious Affiliation Codes. The previous system had ballooned to well over 200 faith codes, 200. It was impractical and unusable, and many codes were never used at all. An overwhelming majority of the military population used only 6 of the codes. Our internal review committee recommended that going forward, the department use 31 religious affiliation codes. This brings the codes in line with its original purpose, giving chaplains clear, usable information so they can minister to service members in a way that aligns with that service member's faith background and religious practice. The second reform I want to tell you about today concerns chaplain rank insignia. The memo I will sign today directs chaplains, all of whom are officers, to replace the rank insignia on their uniforms with their religious insignia. Their rank
will not be shown. This speaks to the difficult balance of the duality of a military chaplain. A chaplain is first and foremost a chaplain, and an officer second. This change is a visual representation of that fact. Specifically unique to the role of a chaplain, they are first and foremost called and ordained by God. And while they will retain rank as an officer, to those they serve, their rank will not be visible. Instead, they will be seen among the highest ranks because of their divine calling. This reform is intended to uplift and celebrate the chaplain's role as a chaplain. It also removes any unease or anxiety junior officers or enlisted personnel may have in approaching an officer, potentially a senior officer, for guidance on sensitive matters, such as addiction, relationships, or struggles with faith. These two reforms are big progress, but we're not even close to being done. These are the first steps toward restoring the esteemed position of chaplain as moral anchors of our fighting force. Theirs is a high and sacred calling, but they can only be successful if they're given the freedom to boldly guide and care for their flock. And to our chaplain, you have a sacred calling. So preach the truth, be steadfast in your faith, and shepherd the flock entrusted to you.
And that is the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. As you guys know, that kind of message wouldn't fly in a place like China, right? There's no freedom there to speak like Pete just did. And that's why we want our country to be saved. We want our country to, not only spiritually in some ways, of course, but also our elections, having free and fair elections. Anyway, let's move on. Let's go to Cove Pier. The Cove Pier says a lot of people tend to go overboard buying new supplements, trying a new diet or workout, which is always great. I should do the same. But then they completely ignore the most important basic thing, drinking water. So even mild dehydration impacts energy, focus, metabolism. And when you think about all the garbage that's in our water, you're starting behind the curve before you even begin. So Cove Pure changes that whole thing immediately with this Cove Pure Clear Wave technology. It's certified to remove up to 99% of contaminants, pretty much anything that isn't water. So those PFAs or microplastics, pharmaceutical residue, fluoride, it all gets removed. It's the purest water you can get, and you can get $250 off for a limited time right now if you just go to that link, covepure.com/RSBN. So instead of maybe a big overhaul, maybe one small upgrade that will add up every single day. Clean water with no tap water aftertaste. That's one thing alone, but also how about all of those contaminants that are in the tap water? Well, right there, you protect what matters, covepure.com/RSBN. Let's also go to allfamilypharmacy.com and take a moment to tell you about one of our trusted sponsors, All Family Pharmacy. If you're someone who believes in medical freedom, who supports the MAHA movement, and who's frustrated with a healthcare system that puts insurance companies and government bureaucrats between you and your doctor, All Family Pharmacy is for you. They are an independent American pharmacy, not a chain, and they give you direct access to the medications you need, including ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, more than 400 generic medications without all of that runaround. So right now, exclusively for all of our RSBN viewers, you can get 25% off your order. Use that RSBN25 promo code. Here's how it works. Specifically, you just go to the website that you see on your screen there, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You fill out that medical form. Then a licensed U.S. physician reviews your requests, prescribes if appropriate, and your medication ships directly to your door. And with spring here, allergies, travel, uncertainty in the world, right now is a great time to be prepared. So you can order ahead and be ready. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. It's 104 Monday, March 30th. Great sponsors here at Right Side. As of right now, still waiting on the start of the press conference at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. As soon as we see that, we'll go there live. A big news day, of course. Every day it seems as if is a big news day. Since, I don't know, since 9/11 and on. It's just a lot has been going on over the past several decades and years. And one of the big stories, of course, is getting that Save America Act passed. Also, for those of you that love outer space, NASA is gearing up, of course, as their crew gears up for their Artemis II launch. And if you're just joining us right now, of course, we've gone over a number of stories and we'll continue to do that here at the network. But let's go to this specifically with NASA. As Artemis 2, this launch is happening around the corner.
Artemis 2 is our return of humans to the moon, flying around the moon on board Orion. But along with that, we're doing a lot of great science.
One of the exciting things about the Artemis missions to the moon is that science is actually a fundamental pillar of why we explore, why we're going, what we're doing in Artemis.
I think it's incredibly exciting that not only are we testing the vehicle, but we're testing science on board. Science where the astronauts are conducting experiments, science riding along with the astronauts. We have astronauts looking outside the window and really observing the lunar surface.
It will help us understand the deep space environment. It will help us understand how that environment affects our astronauts, our systems, and life in general.
So deep space is a challenge for us because you have to leave Earth's protective magnetic field. Here in low Earth orbit, the crew members are protected from some of the harmful radiation. Going to the moon, they'll no longer be protected, so they'll have a higher radiation exposure.
Much like Artemis 1, we have so many radiation sensors and detectors that are inside the capsule so that we can fully understand and appreciate the radiation environment for protecting our astronauts. In my hand here, I'm holding a tissue chip model. This is the exact design that's going to be flying alongside the astronauts. We'll be collecting samples from each of the crew members, and we can make these organ chips out of the astronauts themselves. So every crew member will have their own avatar on board, and then upon return, we can evaluate that deep space radiation environment and what that compares to the astronaut themselves. Not only are they going to help change the course of medicine for the astronauts, but revolutionizing that on Earth as well.
We're looking at sleep, we're looking at team dynamics, we're looking at how you interact with the environment. We're also looking at the immune system, so what are the biomarkers? We're using saliva as a method to study hormones and different things in your body that may change during a mission like this. And then finally, how do we function after microgravity, being close to the moon, then returning to Earth.
Which will ultimately help us achieve our goal of getting humans to Mars.
And then on top of that, we have an opportunity to look at the moon from deep space on the far side for the first time in over 50 years.
Having human eyeballs and brains back around the moon is going to unlock a new generation of lunar science discovery. The human eyeball is capable of taking in so much data in just a split second. They'll be able to tackle impact history, volcanic history. They'll be able to look at how the albedo, or kind of the shade and hue of the moon and the color of the moon, can tell us something about how that terrain evolved over time. We're integrating science in ways that have never been integrated into human exploration before. We have a front room mission control flight controller position called the Science Officer. We have a brand new science back room where it's basically our brain trust of lunar scientists and geologists supporting the crews of the future. And Artemis 2 will allow us to really test how this works so that future missions are really set up for success.
We'll also be deploying some CubeSats. They're small shoebox-sized spacecraft of their own. They're each provided by another country, one of our partners. As they conduct their research, they'll complement what we are doing at the moon with Orion.
It is so incredibly exciting to be a part of this mission.
It has been, really one of the privileges of a lifetime.
I can see the work I'm doing benefit crew members right now and benefit the crew members in the future. So it's incredibly exciting. And it's very rewarding.
As this rocket launches humanity off of the Earth, we'll be setting the stage through our science to prepare humanity to leave Earth and explore the solar system.
All right, so we're going to go to some more of those videos from NASA here in just a minute. Artemis 2, of course, the crew getting ready, and within the week, I believe. I mean, it might be actually this week, Artemis 2's launch. So we'll have that here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's go to a few of our sponsors. Of course, we're standing by, as you see at the bottom of your screen, awaiting Karoline Leavitt to hold that press briefing scheduled for 1 o'clock. It's 9 minutes after. As soon as we see it, we'll take you there live. In the meantime, let's go to Tax Network USA. As you know, it's tax season, and a number of people are getting some refunds out there, but there's a few questions for you. Do you owe back taxes or have unfiled tax returns? Or have you filed every year but still owing? Did you retire and suddenly get hit with a tax bill that you didn't expect? How about, are you a business owner with messy books and a balance you cannot afford? Well, maybe you pulled money from your 401k or IRA early, and now the IRS wants its share. So however your tax issue started, the outcome is the same. Your balance is just not going down. Penalties grow, interest compounds, and many of you might be about to owe again for this upcoming tax year with no plan in place. So you could stop what you're doing. You could call Tax Network USA right there, 877-479-6503, Tax Network USA, tnusa.com/RSBN. Again, Tax Network saying the IRS, is not waiting. The IRS is enforcing collections through wage garnishments, bank levies, property seizures. They can even file for you without your consent. This, according right here to Tax Network USA. So this is where Tax Network USA comes in. They have that 15 years of experience in business. There hasn't been a tax case they haven't seen or resolved, and they specialize in tax controversies and help taxpayers nationwide get back on track by resolving back taxes and unfiled returns once and for all. So specifically, 877-479-6503. There's the information right there, tnusa.com/RSBN. Let's also go to Birch Gold Group here on right side. Think about this. In 2006, $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. And at today's prices, those 33 ounces would be worth about $165,000. So a lot of Americans, smart Americans out there, diversifying a portion of their savings into precious metals. And that's why you might want to consider buying gold from our friends at Birch Gold Group. For thousands of years, as you know, gold has been a store of wealth, and today it's a crucial part of any balanced strategy. Even better, Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or a 401k into a tax-sheltered retirement account in gold. All you have to do to get everything started, just text Trump to that number, 989898, to receive that free info kit on gold. No obligation with this. Useful information was what you'll get with that free info kit. Also, they have that A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers. So text Trump to 989898. Get that going there with diversifying your IRA or 401k into gold. All right, so it's 1/12. It's Monday. It's March 30th. We're going to get back to Tax Network in just a minute, talk about them as well. As we are going to go back to some more of the Artemis 2 launch. That's going to be happening this week. So here's some more from NASA. Again, we're on standby right now as we get ready to go to the White House for Karoline Leavitt's press briefing. If you're just joining us now, of course, we've talked about a number of the top stories that are happening out there in the 24/7 news cycle, including what it takes to pass the Save America Act. The fast track is simple as this. Ready? 51 votes are needed to do the nuclear option or to terminate the filibuster. You have to have 51 votes. So if you get the 51 votes, then it passes the filibuster. It goes right to a vote on the Senate floor. Those 51, you would need that simple majority to pass the Save America Act. That Save America Act goes to President Trump's desk and is signed into law. That's it. There's some other people talking about other ways out there, this whole reconciliation thing, whatever. All I know is this. If we're in 2026, right? It's not 1996 anymore. We know that progressive Democrats, they're frothing. They hope that they get the majority back because guess what they're going to do? Terminate the filibuster, jam through, pass through anything and everything they can. They're not going to respect any of the so-called traditions of the filibuster. We're in a different political landscape. We know what's happened in our country. Shall we reminisce, So anyway, 51 votes are needed to end the filibuster, to bypass that. We'll see what happens. We know that Tommy Tuberville, Senator of Alabama, and a number of others are saying, hey, let's do this. Rick Scott over the weekend at CPAC, the senator there in Florida, saying the same thing. But there are a number of people that are simply, I'll just say it, swamp creatures still in D.C. that are holding back President Trump's agenda and holding back what we, the people, are saying we want. And oh, by the way, you're welcome, senators, for all of the money that you guys are getting from us. So respectfully, everyone call. You can pray hard. You can send an email. You can talk on social media and just say that this is what you want. You want the Save America Act passed. You want the filibuster to be gone, and it takes 51 votes to do that. Keep it on all those levels, specifically there. That's all we're saying here, is just to get the Save America Act passed via those 51 votes. Wasn't really going to go into all of that right there. I just wanted to get back to NASA as we're waiting for Karoline Leavitt, of course, at the press briefing. As soon as we see her, we'll take you there live. Let's go back to more information from NASA.
NASA's Artemis II will send 4 astronauts around the moon, preparing humanity for a long-term lunar presence and future journeys to Mars. Enabling communication and navigation for this test flight are NASA's Near Space Network and Deep Space Network. With antennas around the world and a fleet of relay satellites, the networks will deliver vital data to and from Earth through all phases of the mission. The networks are seamlessly integrated at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, where Mission Control coordinates the network handovers. These transfers represent a delicate dance between the two networks, exchanging support as the mission shoots toward the moon. On the launch pad and during their early orbit phases, NASA's Orion spacecraft and Space Launch System rocket will rely on communications and tracking services from the Near Space Network. After its translunar injection burn, the Deep Space Network's global array of antennas will serve as Orion's primary communications support during lunar orbit. As the mission journeys farther into space and away from Earth, signal strength weakens and bandwidth is conserved for crew communications. The astronauts will have a near constant connection to Earth, ensuring their safety on a journey farther into space than ever before. We say near constant because as Orion goes behind the moon, a planned loss in communications will occur. The Deep Space Network will be standing by to reacquire the signal as Orion reappears. The Artemis II mission also provides an opportunity to test new capabilities. Using laser links, NASA will periodically transmit Orion data to showcase the benefits laser communications could have for future human spaceflight missions. The data from Orion, sent by radio signals or laser links, is massive. The mission is gathering images, data, and video, while also generating details about mission health and crew voice files. All of that data gets processed here on Earth, where systems compress it for efficiency. In the future, we'll upgrade these systems on Earth so that image and video clarity improve with each moon mission. With the Artemis II test flight, we're evaluating the communications infrastructure that will help carry us into the future as we explore the moon and journey forward to Mars.
NASA kicked off a dynamic week ahead of launch with Ignition, an event designed to bring the administration, industry, Congress, and our global coalition of partners together to unite behind the golden age of exploration. We're shaping the future of space exploration for decades to come. Here's what you need to know in your NASA Minute. We're only 5 days away from our targeted launch date for Artemis II, sending humans back to the moon for the first time in over 50 years. The SLS rocket and Orion spacecraft are on the launch pad and are wrapping up final testing in the coming days ahead of launch. In just hours, the Artemis II crew will arrive at Kennedy Space Center to continue quarantine in preparation for their historic mission. On April 1st, all eyes will be on NASA. Tune in to witness America's return to the moon. This week, NASA unveiled a series of groundbreaking announcements at our Ignition event. Here's a quick look at what we shared. NASA is moving forward with one of the most ambitious efforts in its history, building America's first moon base at the lunar South Pole. And I'm honored to be joined by the first ever NASA Minute guest, Carlos Garcia Galan, otherwise known as the Moon Base Guy. Carlos, tell us a little bit about this ambitious endeavor that you're going to be leading.
Thanks, Bethany. America is returning to the moon, and this time when we go, we're building to stay. Starting as soon as this year, NASA will launch a series of robotic missions to prepare for surface operations ahead of crewed flights in 2028. In Phase 1, we'll increase the cadence of lunar missions, delivering rovers, drones, communication systems, and early power to learn how to operate on the moon. In Phase 2, we'll begin building the infrastructure necessary to support permanent habitation on the moon. We're talking about things like power systems, surface communications, logistics, putting everything in place to support astronauts on repeat missions. In phase 3, we'll scale up to sustained presence, enabling continuous crewed operations on the lunar surface. We're moving beyond short stays to establish continuous American presence on the moon, alongside of our international partners and commercial partners. Back to you, Bethany.
Thanks, Carlos. NASA is charting a clear path to sustain America's presence in low Earth orbit. As the International Space Station nears retirement, it will help test commercial platforms before they transition into standalone stations. This phased approach reduces risk, strengthens capability, and supports a growing commercial economy in low Earth orbit. We also announced updates on several upcoming science missions as we enter a new era of discovery. The Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, launching as soon as this fall, will survey the universe at an unprecedented scale, while missions like Dragonfly will explore Titan, and future Mars missions will search for signs of past life. At the same time, NASA is expanding lunar science through commercial lunar payload services, delivering instruments and new technologies to the moon at a higher cadence. Together, these missions are expanding our understanding of the universe, our solar system, and the conditions that make life possible. And finally, NASA is taking major steps toward unlocking nuclear power in space. We're preparing to launch the first nuclear-powered spacecraft to Mars in 2028, using nuclear electric propulsion to travel farther and more efficiently than ever before. That mission, Space Reactor 1 Freedom, will deliver a payload of helicopter drones to Mars, identifying pockets of water ice and potential human landing sites for future manned missions to the Red Planet. From here on Earth to the Moon and on to Mars, the next chapter of American exploration begins now. We'll see you back here next week.
All right, live back here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, we are standing by for the Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt's press briefing, originally scheduled for 1 o'clock Eastern. Of course, a few minutes after that, 22 minutes after that. Thanks so much for live streaming in, East Coast, West Coast, Central Time Zone, Mountain Time Zone, and anywhere else you're watching here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's go to a few of our sponsors as we stand by for the press briefing. We can take a moment to tell you about one of our trusted sponsors, All Family Pharmacy. So if you're someone who believes in medical freedom and stands with the MAHA movement and who's really frustrated with a healthcare system that puts insurance companies and government bureaucrats between you and your doctor, All Family Pharmacy is for you. They are an independent American pharmacy. They're not a chain out there, and they give you direct access to the medications you need, including ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, and more than 400 generic medications without the runaround. And right now, today and tomorrow, the 25% off is happening, and that's the last 2 days for the sale. It's going to go back, I believe, maybe to 10%. We'll see what happens. But right now, you can get that RSBN 25 promo code right there. Here's how it works. So simply, you go to allfamilypharmacy.com that you see on your screen, /RSBN, and then a licensed U.S. physician reviews your request after you fill out a medical form, prescribes if appropriate, and then your medication ships directly to your door. So with spring here and allergies, travel, uncertainty in the world, right now is a great time to be prepared. So you can order ahead and be ready. Allfamilypharmacy.com /RSBN. Use that RSBN 25 promo code as you have today and tomorrow to use it. All right, let's go to Kalshi.com as well. Specifically, one of the questions that's on there is, what will Karoline Leavitt say in the next press briefing? So right now, people are actually on Kalshi, ready to watch this press briefing. 53% of people say that the words identification or the letters ID, identification, is going to be said by Karoline Leavitt. 48% say Cuba, and 47% say fraud. So we'll see what Karoline has to say. She'll have that opening statement, of course, and then we'll hear from the fake news and conservative media in that room. So we'll hear what everybody has to say for this press briefing. In the meantime, let's talk about the DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen, as he has a week 1 recap. We're going to go to that quickly. Now, the next couple videos we're going to go to are pretty brief. because we're right now awaiting the top of the press briefing there at the White House. But again, Mark Wayne Mullen, a rock star, you know, someone that's an American patriot. Let's go to week 1 recap, clip number 6.
All right, guys, first week at DHS. They cut the whole theme, though, of the bouncy ball. I've got 6 gifted to me. Anyways, just want to tell you what's going on. It's been interesting. This is my new off.
All right, it looks like we're hearing that the press conference is going to be coming up. So what we'll do is that video and one of the other videos from the Texas Representative Keith Self speaking about Sharia law on the House floor recently. We're going to play those 2 videos after the press conference. Let's go to Washington, D.C. right now. I'm Matthew Alvarez.
Could you hear our amen in there? We just said a little loud prayer as a team. In this Holy Week, President Trump and the First Lady are joining in prayer with Christians celebrating the resurrection of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. On Wednesday, the president will host an Easter lunch in the East Room with faith leaders across the country to celebrate Holy Week. With respect to the ongoing major combat operations in Iran, Operation Epic Fury is moving ahead successfully and according to plan. With each passing day, the United States military is increasing its advantage over the terrorist Iranian regime. More than 11,000 enemy targets have been struck to date, each strike further crippling the regime's offensive and defensive capabilities and creating more leverage for the United States and our allies. Compared to the start of the operation, Iran's ballistic missile and drone attacks are down by roughly 90%. The United States is also decimating the Iranian regime's navy. We have destroyed more than 150 of their naval vessels so far, including 92% of their largest vessels. The Iranian Navy has no vessels operating in major regional waterways and no ability to project naval power, which is why they've been assessed as combat ineffective. Our military continues to obliterate Iran's defense industrial base, with nearly 70% of their missile, drone, and naval production facilities and shipyards damaged or destroyed thus far, significantly reducing their ability to pose future threats in the region. U.S. and Israeli joint forces control the skies and have asserted air dominance over Iran, completing more than 11,000 successful combat flights thus far. The trend remains clear. The United States is conducting more intense, targeted strikes with devastating combat power with each passing day to destroy the threat posed by the Iranian terrorist regime, as President Trump sought out to do a month ago. It's no surprise that we are seeing the remaining elements of the regime become increasingly eager to end the destruction and come to the negotiating table while they still can. Despite all of the public posturing you hear from the regime and false reporting, talks are continuing and going well. What is said publicly is, of course, much different than what's being communicated to us privately. As a result, President Trump issued a 10-day pause to postpone planned strikes on Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure. This remains a truly once-in-a-generation opportunity for the regime to make a good deal with the United States, permanently abandon their nuclear ambitions, and stop acting as the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. If the Iranians reject this golden opportunity, the greatest military in the history of the world continues to stand by to provide President Trump with every option available to ensure this regime continues to pay a grave price. One way or another, Iran will no longer have the credible ability to threaten the United States or our allies, which is, of course, the overall objective and mission the president set out when he launched Operation Epic Fury. Unfortunately, even as President Trump is working hard every single day to protect the United States from foreign enemies, Democrats on Capitol Hill have failed to do the same here at home by keeping the Department of Homeland Security unfunded. Over the past 6 weeks, Democrats in Congress have pushed our air travel system to its breaking point and inflicted massive pain on Americans with their reckless political games. 500 TSA officers quit their jobs. Thousands more were calling out sick at record rates due to the lack of pay. This resulted in security wait times exceeding 3 hours at major airports across the country, creating nightmares for millions of Americans. Overall morale among TSA staff plummeted as well, all of this creating an unacceptable heightened security risk. Because of the Democrats' unwillingness to do their basic job of funding DHS, President Trump determined that these circumstances constituted an emergency, compromising American security. That's why last week he accordingly signed a presidential memorandum directing the Secretary of Homeland Security to work with the Director of the Office of Management and Budget here at the White House to use those funds with a reasonable and logical nexus to TSA operations to provide TSA employees with the compensation and benefits that would have accrued to them but for the Democrat-led DHS shutdown. This bold and necessary action by President Trump will ensure our TSA workers receive their hard-earned paychecks. It should not have come to this point, but President Trump will always do what's right by the American people, and he found a way to do that to get TSA paid. Ensuring that these federal workers who perform critical public safety responsibilities can feed their families, pay their rent, and show up to work is something the president was honored to do. But this moment should be an eye-opening one for the American people. Let's be clear about what is happening. Democrat members of Congress are more than happy to put your safety at risk because they oppose the president's and his administration's efforts to enforce our nation's immigration law. Democrats refuse to fund ICE because they want millions and millions of illegal aliens to pour into the country just like they were under the Biden administration. They want murderers and rapists and thugs to remain in your communities rather than be removed by ICE and Border Patrol agents. The Democrats created this mess. They are the reason for long lines at airports and tens of thousands of employees going without pay. Once again, President Trump is cleaning up their mess because he cares more about the American people than destructive, petty, partisan politics. With that, I will take your questions today. Here in our new media seat, we have Wid Lyman. Thank you for being here. And why don't you kick us off?
Thank you. Happy Easter.
Thank you. You as well.
2 questions for you. Thank you. There are some concerns the administration is starting to change its position on deportations, border enforcement, possibly asylum policies. What would you say to Americans that are somewhat concerned that the shift has happened?
Sure. Well, while there has, of course, been a change in leadership at the Department of Homeland Security with former Senator, now Secretary Mullen, joining the president's cabinet, I can assure the American people there has not been a change in policy. It has always been the policy of this president and this administration to deport the worst of the worst illegal alien criminals from our communities. That's something I know Secretary Mullen remains wholeheartedly committed to doing. And it's something that is overwhelmingly popular with the American people. And it's something that is necessary to protect our homeland and to prevent deaths of Americans in our country. Just last week, Sheridan Gorman, a young woman in Chicago, was shot and killed on the street walking with her friends outside of her university by an illegal alien from Venezuela who had no right to be here in the first place. And it's despicable that Democrats are currently defunding the department that's responsible for removing illegal aliens like that. And I would also add it's despicable that the lack of coverage of this young woman's case, of her life, and the way that it was tragically cut short. I saw a survey over the weekend that I'd like to bring to all of your attention. This is the media coverage of the case of Sheridan Gorman. You have ABC News has spent 1 minute and 19 seconds between 2 days when this case was first alerted. You have CBS, 2 minutes and 1 second. You have NBC, 23 seconds spent on the life of a young, beautiful American woman whose life was taken short by an illegal alien who should have never been here in the first place, when we are in the middle of a battle on Capitol Hill with a major political party, the Democrat Party, who wants to defund the agency that is responsible for protecting Americans. I think her life was worth more than 23 seconds on cable television, and I think the people in this room have a responsibility to report on cases like this because it just exemplifies why the president believes so strongly in deporting illegal aliens from our communities. And thank you for the question. Dasha, go ahead.
Caroline, I have 2 questions, one on Iran and one on DHS funding. On Iran, the president has said that the administration is talking to a new and more reasonable regime. How confident are you that they are legitimate and have enough grip on power? Marco Rubio said earlier that he's not sure and it's not clear whether they will be in power. So are you also talking to other factions? As the president is trying to make a deal, how do you ensure that you're making a deal with the people who can actually implement it?
Well, that's part of the ongoing process that's taking place and the ongoing negotiations. Of course, anything that they say to us privately will be tested, and we will ensure that they are being held accountable to their word. And if they are not, the president has laid out the military consequences that the Iranian regime will see if they don't hold true to the words that we are hearing privately behind the scenes. When the president says more reasonable, again, again, these folks are appearing more reasonable behind the scenes privately in these conversations than perhaps some of the previous leaders who are now no longer on planet Earth because they lied to the United States and they strung us along in negotiations, and that was unacceptable to the president, which is why many of the previous leaders were killed. So again, this is another historic opportunity for Iran to do the right thing, to rid themselves of their nuclear ambitions and to come to a deal with this president and the administration. Or again, they will see the grave consequences of the United States Armed Forces, which they are continuing to see every day throughout this operation.
On DHS, how long can the administration keep paying TSA without action from Congress? And not to be hyperbolic, but given the airports were really the pain point that was pushing both sides to talk to each other. I mean, do you see a way for DHS to reopen? Is it possible that this keeps going through the midterms?
Well, we certainly hope so. I mean, of course, the president just can't keep signing presidential memorandums and proclamations every time Congress fails to do its job and every time Democrats are holding our entire country hostage, picking and choosing which programs and agencies they want to fund just because they don't like this administration's policies. That's not how it's supposed to work. They voted 7 times against funding DHS over partisan and political reasons. And so, again, the president has stepped in to do the right thing at this moment in time, but the president is also encouraging Congress to come back to Washington to permanently fix this problem and to fund and reopen the Department of Homeland Security entirely.
Caroline.
Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions, one on TSA, one on Iran. On TSA, for ordinary Americans watching the briefing, how long until everything goes back to normal at airports after the president's action? And then on Iran, on the time frame, President Trump initially said about 4 weeks. Secretary of State Rubio on Friday reportedly said it might be another 2 to 4. Is 2 to 4 the current ballpark that the administration is thinking?
With respect to the timeline, again, the President, Commander-in-Chief, the Pentagon has always stated 4 to 6 weeks estimated timeline for Operation Epic Fury. We're on day 30 today. So again, you do the math on how much longer the Pentagon needs to fully achieve the objectives of Operation Epic Fury, which I will reiterate: destroy the Iranian Navy, destroy their ballistic missiles, dismantle their missile and drone production infrastructure, significantly weaken their proxies throughout the course of this operation, and then, of course, preventing Iran from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. To your first question, Stephen, about TSA and airports, nothing will be truly normal again until Democrats do the right thing to fund this agency fully. Again, the president has stepped in the meantime to do what's right to end this crisis that we've had at air travel and at airports across the country in the meantime. But again, Congress needs to come back. Democrats need to fund the Department of Homeland Security so we can formally and fully get these great employees paid long into the future. Jonathan.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. 2 questions regarding the financial costs of the war. Back during the Persian Gulf War, 1990, 1991, Arab countries paid for the vast majority of the cost of the war. Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the UAE. Who's paying for the cost of this war? Will those Arab countries step up to do just that?
Well, I think it's something the president would be quite interested in calling them to do. I won't get ahead of him on that, but certainly it's an idea that I know that he has and something that I think you'll hear more from him on.
And then secondly, the cost of diesel is averaging at $5.38 a gallon right now. What's the message from the Trump administration to truck drivers who are dealing with those high fuel costs right now?
Again, we understand, we hear you, we see you. We are fully tracking this short-term fluctuation in oil and in diesel prices. And that's why the president and the administration have continually announced robust actions to provide stability in the global energy market. As you know, political risk insurance, one of those actions, allowing countries to purchase sanctioned oil just to increase the supply. In the meantime, we've worked to release 400 billion barrels of oil and refined products as well. We issued the 60-day Jones Act waiver. All of this has, with the goal of increasing supply to create stabilization in the market in the meantime. But the overall message, as we've repeatedly stated, is, again, these are short-term actions and short-term price fluctuations for the long-term benefit of ending the threat that Iran poses to the United States of America, our troops, and our allies in the region, and ensuring that this regime can no longer control the world's free flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz, which is something the administration continues to tackle day by day as well.
Jennifer. Just two questions. Which Jennifer?
I'll go to both of them.
Go ahead. So two questions. One on China and one on Iran. On China, ahead of the president's trip to Beijing, will there be a working level meeting with Secretary Bessent, Jameson Greer, et cetera, and when will that be?
I do expect cabinet officials to travel to China ahead of time. I don't have a readout on their schedules for you, but this is something we typically do with international travel, as you know. So I'll talk to the Treasury Department and the cabinet myself, and we'll get you that answer. But we do expect them to move ahead of time.
Okay, and thank you. And on Iran, if Iran is kind of cherry picking what tankers get to go through the Strait now and contemplating big tolls on those tankers, is that consistent, or how is that consistent really with the president's message about really wanting the Strait to be fully open? Does the administration support a regime or system where Iran is effectively charging tolls on these vessels to access?
That's not something we support, and I would reject that they are cherry picking. In fact, as you know, these tankers that are moving through, the 10 that were previously announced and now the new 20, the announcement of 20 additional tankers, which we expect to see over the coming days, are a result of the direct and indirect talks that are taking place between the United States and Iran. So you wouldn't have seen those tankers if not for the president's diplomacy and his team engaging on this matter, which we expect that compliance moving forward. And it's, again, something that we're working on very closely.
Karoline.
Sure. And behind the tank in the back right there, you put up your hand very excitingly. Go ahead.
Hannah from News Nation.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking my question. I have two for you real quick. There are reports that Republicans are weighing cuts to health care in order to make way for that $200 billion for the Pentagon and Operation Epic Fury. Is that a trade-off that President Trump supports?
I've seen these reports. I haven't spoken to the president about it, nor have I heard this being discussed in any high-level meetings here at the White House. I don't want to weigh in definitively because I just haven't heard that being discussed here in the West Wing.
And then secondly, I know President Trump says we're ahead of schedule in achieving his military objectives in Iran. He laid out that 4 to 6 week timetable for this conflict, and we're now within week 5. So how do you square kind of those two?
Well, 4 to 6 weeks estimated timeline. Again, you just said we're on day 30 of the operation. I just provided you with some of the updates from the Pentagon directly in achieving the objectives, and the military has been enormously successful. I think we should all be very proud of our armed forces for what they have done over the past 30 days. The mission will continue until the objectives are achieved, and that 4 to 6 week timeline does remain right now. I don't have any updates for you on that.
Yeah, like others, one on TSA, one on Iran. On Iran, I know it's tough to engage in hypotheticals, but I feel like this is one that you could engage in. If the president does
Probably not, but
let's see. If the president does seek, or the United States seeks a ground war, does he intend to get congressional authorization of that march?
Look, the president has been asked about boots on the ground or alleged ground operations various times. He's obviously declined to rule them out. It's the Pentagon's job to provide maximum optionality to the president. It does not mean he's made a decision, nor would he ever notify the media of such decision as not to tip off our enemy. With respect to abiding by Congress and the rule of law, that's something the administration will, of course, always do, and it's something that we have great respect for Congress. The president does with military operations. In fact, prior to the launch of Operation Epic Fury, as you know, the administration gave a courtesy notice to Congress in the Gang of Eight, and top-level administration officials and cabinet secretaries have gone to Congress multiple times over the past 30 days to provide those courtesy briefings to Congress when requested.
TSA quickly, I've been asked by multiple Trump supporters that have said, given the fact that the president on that Friday gave that memorandum informing DHS to pay TSA workers, I know there's a lot of negotiations involved in a shutdown of this size. Why did the president not sooner issue that payment to TSA workers?
Well, it's because of the Democrats voting 7 times against reopening the Department of Homeland Security that we came to a place of an existential crisis. I mean, you saw the lines at various major airports across the country, American travelers really paying the price for Democrats' partisan games. And so the president worked with his legal team here at the White House and the Office of Management and Budget to find a solution to take care of the emergency that we were seeing in air travel across the country. And it's because of the president that TSA agents are being paid. But again, he's calling on Congress to do the right thing, to come back to Washington, and to fund and reopen the Department of Homeland Security fully.
Sure. Hi, Lindsay Ellis from the Wall Street Journal. I'm trying to square the 4 objectives laid out by the administration with the goal of reopening fully the Strait of Hormuz. Would President Trump declare victory and wind down military operations if the 4 objectives are met, but still passage remains quite slow through the Strait?
Look, as I've said repeatedly and as the president has laid out, the objectives of Operation Epic Fury are as follows: destroying the Iranian Navy, destroying their ballistic missiles, dismantling their defense industrial infrastructure that produces those weapons that have long threatened the United States and our allies, and then, of course, preventing Iran from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. The full reopening of the Strait is something the administration is working towards, but the core objectives of the operation have been clearly defined for the American people by the Commander-in-Chief.
The President posted this morning about, his threat that on leaving Iran, he said we might blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, Harg Island, and possibly all desalinization plants. Under international law, striking civilian infrastructure like that is generally prohibited. Why is the president threatening what would amount to potentially a war crime with the U.S. military? And how do you square that with the administration repeatedly saying that the U.S. does not target civilians?
Look, the president has made it quite clear to the Iranian regime at this moment in time, as evidenced by the statement that you just read, that their best move is to make a deal, or else the United States Armed Forces has capabilities beyond their wildest imagination, and the president is not afraid to use them. That's not what I said, Garrett. And you're saying the word potential for a reason, because I'm sure some experts are telling you that in your ear to try to ask me that question. Of course, this administration and the United States Armed Forces will always act within the confines of the law. But with respect to achieving the full objectives of Operation Epic Fury, President Trump is going to move forward unabated, and he expects the Iranian regime to make a deal with the administration.
To that end, which of those objectives would destroying a desalinization plant most help?
Haley, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. I want to follow up on Iran. When you're describing that the Iranians you're in contact with are being more reasonable this time around in discussions, what specifically are you hearing that is leading you to that conclusion, and how are you defining what's reasonable versus unreasonable in that regard?
I'm not going to detail the private and sensitive conversations that are taking place between the United States and Iran right now.
But generally speaking?
Generally speaking, the president gave you the answer. What we're hearing from them is more reasonable. They have agreed to some of the points the United States laid out, as the president said last night aboard Air Force One. But again, as for the specifics, as these negotiations are ongoing, we're not going to broadcast them to the world unless the president chooses to do so, which he has the full right to do as the leader of the free world.
On Cuba, the president threatened to tariff any country that would send oil to Cuba, but now the U.S. is letting this Russian tanker to Cuba. Is this a policy change, or is he willing to let more tankers into Cuba now?
This is not a policy change. There has not been a formal change in sanction policy. As the president said last night, we allowed this ship to reach Cuba in order to provide humanitarian needs to the Cuban people. These decisions are being made on a case-by-case basis. And as the administration has said, Cuba's non-functional economy cannot be fixed unless they undergo dramatic political and leadership change. But there has been no formal change with respect to sanction policy.
So you could expect more tankers to go to Cuba?
Again, these decisions are being made on a case-by-case basis right now.
Thanks, Caroline. You addressed this a little bit in the opening, but just to follow up, because Americans are sort of seeing these conflicting messages between the United States and Iran. I know the president insists that negotiations are underway. As you just mentioned, he's also said that Iran has agreed to most of the 15 points. We just heard from Iran again. They're saying no negotiations are taking place. They're calling the proposal excessive, unrealistic. So how do you square that? How do you explain that discrepancy between the two?
I think the American people are smart enough not to take the word of a terrorist regime that has chanted death to America for 47 years at their word. And I hope the journalists in this room are wise enough not to take an Iranian regime that has repeatedly lied about our country, about our values, about everyone in this room, frankly, for nearly 5 decades. So I think the American public are smart enough to understand that.
And just to follow up on the objectives, you've laid them out, but I know the president has set a deadline for April 6th in just 1 week. What does the president need to see to not move forward with those strikes by April 6th?
Well, I think he said it in his Truth Social post this morning. He wants to see a deal over the next 10 days. That timeline is waning, several days left, and we'll see. I won't get ahead of it. We'll see what happens in the end of the 10-day period.
Caroline, thank you. One on Iran, one on the shutdown. The president continues to say the U.S. is in conversations with a more reasonable regime, but there are now hundreds of U.S. Special Operations Forces, including Navy SEALs and Army Rangers in the Middle East, as well as thousands of other troops already deployed. So is he trying to end or intensify the conflict?
The president is focused on achieving the objectives of Operation Epic Fury. With respect to forces that are on the ground in the Middle East, it's the job of the Pentagon to create maximum optionality for the commander-in-chief. It does not mean the president has made any additional decisions. Again, he remains focused on ensuring that the Pentagon continues to achieve the objectives of the operation that was launched 30 days ago, and we're well on our way to doing that.
So if an American sitting at home hearing him say, I want to talk, but I keep seeing them send troops to that region, what are they to make of what's going on?
There's two tracks here. The president has always said that diplomacy is his #1 option and priority. Again, he tried earnestly, in good faith, to engage in diplomacy with the Iranian regime prior to this operation being launched in the first place. He wanted to strike a deal, and he sent his top negotiators to do so. They spent extensive amount of time and effort trying to strike a deal, and unfortunately, the previous regime, again, many of those leaders no longer with us here on Earth because they faced the consequences of the United States military. So if there's ever a chance for a deal, again, the president is open to listening, but it does not deter him from focusing on the military objectives that he set out 30 days ago and that our military is continuing to achieve day by day.
On the shutdown, he signed the national emergency order last Thursday, making sure TSA officers will be paid. There's still other civilian DHS employees, however, who are not being paid.
Yes.
Will he sign something similar to ensure they also get paid?
Look, the president will always look into ways that we can make sure that the American people are being taken care of and doing what's right by the American people. But again, it's ridiculous that the president even has to go to the length of working with the legal team and the Office of Management and Budget to identify these funds. It is the job of Congress to fund these agencies. And Democrats in Congress have voted 7 times against funding the Department of Homeland Security. Congress should come back and they should get it done. The president, again, made the decision to prevent this existential crisis we were seeing at our nation's airports across the country that was only going to get worse, and that's why he wants Congress to do his job.
Thank you, Caroline. Since you mentioned,
I'll go to you as well.
Since you mentioned Easter and prayers, I wanted to ask you about something the Pope said yesterday. So Pope Leo said yesterday, and I quote him, "God does not listen to the prayer of those who wage war." Can you comment on that?
I think our nation was a nation founded 250 years ago almost on Judeo-Christian values, and we've seen presidents, we've seen the leaders of the Department of War, and we've seen our troops go to prayer during the most turbulent times in our nation's history. And I don't think there's anything wrong with our military leaders or with the president calling on the American people to pray for our service members and those who are serving our country overseas. In fact, I think it's a very noble thing to do. And if you talk to many service members, they will tell you they appreciate the prayers and support from the Commander-in-Chief and from his cabinet.
Caroline, thank you. President Trump told the New York Post that a response is coming shortly to Tehran attacking Israel's largest oil refinery. Is there a timeline on that? Is that tied to the success or not of the negotiations?
I don't have any updates for you on the president's comments.
Still consider the IRGC in control of Iran?
Well, look, as Secretary Rubio said today, the leadership is very fragmented. We have really neutered their intercommunication systems, and that's part of this process of diplomacy to continue figuring out exactly who's in charge. I know they appointed a new Ayatollah, haven't seen or heard much from him, and so that's part of this diplomatic process that's underway right now. I'll take a few more. Solon.
Thank you. You listed the described humanitarian reasons for allowing that oil tanker to reach Cuba. Just to clarify, why was the administration okay with Russia sending that oil to Cuba and not other nations?
Look, again, this was a decision. It'll continue to be made on a case-by-case basis for humanitarian reasons or otherwise, but there's been no firm change in our sanctions policy.
President Sheinbaum of Mexico also said that Mexico is exploring different ways to restart some of those shipments to Cuba. Is the administration okay with that at this time?
Again, there's been no change in our sanction policy. We still reserve the right to seize vessels if it's legally applicable that are headed towards Cuba and that violate the United States sanction policy. But of course, the president and the administration also reserve the right to waive those seizures on a case-by-case basis.
And to clarify, just any more Russian oil tankers going to be allowed to reach Cuba at this time?
Again,
I know you say case by case, but for the case of Russia, is it pretty much green light right now?
No, that's not what I said. It's a case-by-case basis. Sure, Jeff, go ahead.
Switching topics, the president has always attended CPAC. He did not this year. Why did he not attend, and does he believe CPAC is becoming less relevant?
No, I don't think he believes that at all. In fact, he loves CPAC and has a very good relationship with the great people who run it, Mercedes and Matt Schlapp. It was just simply for scheduling purposes this year, with it being in Texas. It was best for the president's schedule and what he has on his plate right now not to go.
Carolina.
Michael.
Thank you, Caroline. If and when
Michael.
a deal is finalized with Iran, how does the U.S. provide protection to who it's negotiating with to ensure that they can carry out the president's peace plan?
Again, that's something I'm sure our national security team is discussing. I don't have anything for you on that today.
On the ballroom, can you tell us more about this massive military complex underneath the president's new ballroom?
I cannot tell you more about that, actually, as a matter of fact. However, the military is making some upgrades to their facilities here at the White House, and I'm not privy to provide any more details on that at this time. Caroline, go ahead. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. Question on the Middle East and then a question on Antifa. Netanyahu said Sunday that Cardinal Pizzaballa will be able to hold services for Palm Sunday in the Church of Holy Sepulchre after he was initially blocked by Israeli police. Did anyone from the administration or the president call over to Israeli officials to assist the cardinal in this?
Yes, I did speak with Secretary Rubio this morning, and we did express our concerns with Israel with respect to these holy sites being shut down. We want worshipers to be able to access these holy sites. Of course, safety is a top priority, but we understand Israel is working on those security measures to reopen the sites throughout Holy Week, and that's something that we're appreciative of.
Antifa. Sure. In Texas, 9 people have been convicted by a federal jury on domestic terrorist charges connected to Antifa. The White House has previously indicated that you guys are investigating Antifa, who's funding them, who's leading them. Can you provide an update on how that investigation is going, and do you think we're going to see more charges against people connected to Antifa?
Well, I do know that there was an entire task force that was set up, an interagency task force, to focus on the threat of Antifa, which, as you know, Reagan, this president declared a domestic terrorist organization, rightfully, and we will continue to look into it. I don't have any updates on those specific investigations, but I'd be happy to have my team get those over to you today, as this continues to be of the utmost importance to the president and his domestic policy agenda.
Caroline, JJ. On one question on landmines, there's been some reporting that American-made landmines have been spotted on the ground in Iran. Did President Trump sign off on using U.S.-made landmines in Iran?
I don't have any comment on that report today.
Caroline, whether they're being used at all?
I don't have any comment on that.
Karen.
Two on DHS. You said that the president is encouraging Congress to come back to D.C. You also
Yes.
said yourself. How has he done that? Has he told leadership that they should cancel recess and come back?
He said it repeatedly. I think you recall. He said that he'll host a big Easter dinner here at the White House if Congress will come back and fight the Democrats on this issue, which we should do, because again, the Democrat Party is in the wrong here. They have voted 7 times against funding the Department of Homeland Security, which is completely egregious with everything we have going on in the world. And these brave men and women who serve DHS deserve to get their paychecks. The president wants to see that happen, and he wants Congress to come back to get it done.
On the paychecks, Caroline.
All right, so Karoline Leavitt there holding the press briefing on this Monday, March 30th. We're going to get to some of our sponsors here in just a minute. We also are going to play some of the videos we didn't get to play before Karoline started speaking about Markwayne Mullin, the first week recap, and also Texas Representative Keith Self speaking about Sharia law on the House floor. So we're going to get to that in just a minute. Let's first go to All Family Pharmacy as we take a moment to tell you about one of our trusted sponsors, All Family Pharmacy. So if you're someone who believes in medical freedom, who supports the MAHA movement, and who's frustrated with a healthcare system that puts insurance companies and government bureaucrats between you and your doctor, All Family Pharmacy is for you. They're not an independent situation when it comes to other specifics. They're actually an independent American pharmacy, and they're not a chain. They give you direct access to the medications you need, including ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, and over 400 generic medications without the runaround. So right now, exclusively for all of you guys, there is an RSBN 25 code. You get 25% off. This ends tomorrow at the end of the month. And so all you do is go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You'll fill out a medical form, a licensed U.S. physician reviews your request, prescribes if appropriate, and medication ships directly to your door. So with spring here, allergies and travel and uncertainty in the world, right now is the time to be prepared. And you can order ahead and be ready with allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that code, get that 25% off. Let's also go to Tax Network USA as we get ready to go to some more videos here before we close up our broadcast. 877-479-6503. Here are a number of questions that people may be facing during this tax season. So, do you owe back taxes or have unfiled tax returns? Or have you filed every year but you still keep owing? Did you retire and suddenly get hit with a tax bill that you didn't expect? How about, are you a business owner with messy books and a balance you cannot afford? Maybe you pulled money from your 401k or IRA early and now the IRS wants its share. So however your tax issue started, the outcome is the same. Your balance, it's just not going down. Penalties grow, interest compounds, and many of you are about to owe again for this upcoming tax year with no plan in place. A number of us getting refunds as well. Great to see that. So you can stop what you're doing. If you want to call 877-479-6503, call Tax Network USA. We're told that the IRS isn't waiting. The IRS is enforcing collections through wage garnishments, bank levies, and property seizures. And they can even file for you without your consent, we're told. And this is where Tax Network USA steps in. With over 15 years in business, there hasn't been a tax case they haven't seen or resolved. They specialize in tax controversies and help taxpayers nationwide get back on track by resolving back taxes and unfiled returns once and for all. So whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, their team has resolved over $1 billion in tax debt, and they can do the same for you. But you have to call now. They're offering a free investigation call with the IRS. After that investigation, they put a clear case plan in place to resolve your tax problem and get you back on track. So it's about using your legal rights to take control before the government sets the terms for you. So don't wait for another IRS letter or a frozen bank account. Just call 877-479-6503 that you see there on your screen, or visit tnusa.com/RSBN. You see all that information right there. Great sponsor here on Right Side. It is past the top of the hour. It's 2:02 Eastern. A couple more points that we're going to talk about, of course, the Save America Act in just a second. But let's go to that recap of week one under the leadership of the new DHS Secretary, Markwayne Mullin.
All right, guys, first week at DHS. They caught the whole theme, though, of the bouncy ball. I've got 6 gifted to me. Anyways, just want to tell you what's going on. It's been interesting. This is my new office. My wife's going to come up and put a personal touch, and you'll see Christy's decoration that takes place. I'm still fighting through this whole shutdown. I have roughly 80,000 employees that's working for free. And they've been working for free now for over 30 days. And it's ridiculous, but that just shows the commitment that we have for these DHS employees. They're still focused, showing up every day and working on mission to keep the homeland safe. I think I have the greatest employees working at DHS ever. I mean that sincerely. The fact that they're working for free every day and still keeping the homeland safe that's all you need to know about them. But we're going to continue to talk a little bit more about that later. Right now, though, I just want to say thank you. What a great opportunity I have. I'm very humbled by it, but I'm excited about the task ahead. So we're going to continue to post, continue to tell you what's going on, maybe give you a tour of the facility. I did find the cafeteria. I'm just going to say, the burger, it's got to be my top 5, but it may be my absolute favorite. I'll maybe share that with you at a different time. But anyways, God bless you all. As always, may God bless the United States of America.
All right, so just that first week recap for the new DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullin. This all brought to you by a number of great sponsors, including, if you'd like to donate, just go to rsbnetwork.com/donate if you'd like to help at all when it comes to our growth and expansion here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. been in the biz for, what, more than 10 years now. Right Side Broadcasting Network on the conservative side of things, and just really all about God, family, and country. So if you'd like to donate, rsbnetwork.com/donate. Also, mypillow.com/RSBN. A number of great products there with Mike Lindell's great company, mypillow.com/RSBN. Quite the percentage off for various products there as well. So you can check out the mattress and topper sale, $99.99. A great price for a number of quality products there at mypillow.com. In our final video of the day, Texas Representative Keith Self posted a video, his team did, as he was speaking about Sharia law on the House floor recently. So let's take a look at clip 8.
America was founded on a timeless principle: individual freedom secured by self-government under a clear and supreme rule of constitutional law. As John Adams warned, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Today, we witness the painful truth of those words. Multitudes arrive at our borders with no intention of assimilating into our culture or embracing the founding principles of liberty under the U.S. Constitution.
So that Sharia-free America caucus there, very interesting to see that. Also, Tommy Tuberville and others speaking about not having Sharia law here in this country, but having the law of the land, the Constitution, continue on into the future is what we the people want, of course. Let's look at a few of the notable events coming up, and then we'll be wrapping our broadcast after we talk about the Save America Act quickly, a couple Truth Social posts that we'll highlight. Outside of any breaking news, here are a few notable events for this year. On April 1st, NASA Artemis II mission launches. Then, in May, President Trump will travel to China to meet with President Xi Jinping on May 14th and the 15th. There will be then a reciprocal visit to D.C. from the Chinese leader later this year, we're told. And then yet to be officially announced, there will be a special RNC midterm convention sometime this year. We'll see when that happens. Of course, on July 4th, the USA turns 250. And then November 3rd, the United States midterm election, which leads me to our final point of the day. As we monitor the very latest on the Save America Act, President Trump on Truth Social released a statement about ending the filibuster, saying, quote, "It is time for the Senate filibuster to end. Those weak and ineffective Republican senators that stand in the way of this should be exposed to the public. The Democrats are crazy." So President Trump saying, let's end this filibuster. So specifically, let's look at that for clip 7's Truth Social post, where this is the fast track to getting the job done and getting it done right. Because we know we're in 2026 with that changing political landscape. This is a different time. So we have 53 Republican U.S. senators right now in the United States Senate. On March 17th, 51 Republican senators voted to bring the Save America Act to the Senate floor for debate. Next up, 51 votes are needed to end the filibuster. All right, so we need 51 votes to end the filibuster. And then 51 votes, of course, that simple majority needed to pass the Save America Act and sign it into law. So we'll see how all of this pans out. It's 2:07, Monday, March 30th. Thanks again for watching live streaming here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. For all of us here at Right Side, I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll see you again soon.